Our door tomorrow. Let's close your windows.
You closed yours, I saw.
Did I? Okay, good. I need somebody to pay attention.
Did you close your windows?
I'd like to call the September 19th, 2022 Town of Rochester Planning Board Workshop meeting to order. Rick, can you take us through the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hold. Thank you.
Chair Sard,
Present?
Mr. Williams. Ms. Lynchner.
Yep.
Mr. Grasso,
Present.
Mr. Jarvis,
Yeah.
Mr. Pinsky is absent, Mr. Jones,
God and here.
All right.
and I'm here.
So,
And Raymond.
so the purpose is to review local laws M through S, I believe. So let's start with M, commercial event facilities. And I know we've been through some of this before. Let's just check to make sure. And Nicole, which public hearing, which document is it in the?
It will be the red line PDF document.
PDF, so the
Fourth one over.
fourth.
of some.
Mine doesn't say that. Mine, the red line one is the third.
Okay, so it'll be the red line. Yeah,
All right.
and then you should see the comments about population rate.
So let's just hit the highlights and we all are in agreement, then we'll just keep moving through them. And then hopefully we'll just have one motion soon. Purpose, this section of the law is to ensure facilities which may not have been designed for service for special events meet the standards of health, safety, and welfare while allowing the use upon the completion of necessary upgrades and satisfaction of specific standards. So I guess we want to make sure they're done, right? So is there any, with the completion, does it need re-inspection by the CEO or that's it's a
Whenever you have
given that
a,
it's-
get a commercial health facility, that will be for inspection to make sure that
so the inspection is a given. It's
it's
not-
given.
Okay.
That if it comes to the planning board and then in order to get a CO to do what they want to do, he has to lead to our decision and
Yeah.
I won't get it.
I think that's part of the inspection
Yeah.
includes the fee.
Well, because I guess where I'm going is it goes out the first time, he says it hasn't been improved. And they're saying I'm complete.
Yeah.
He's got to go out of second. Okay. All right, C was the scope, and that was just a minor change to say this chapter versus 1:16 and below. D was commercial event facilities shall be permitted in A10, AR3, AV3, D, R5, I, NR, and H zoning districts, right?
I second
I
that.
have, I saw what you wrote, but I don't think that that's correct. Having gone through what we went through, agricultural is both commercial and ag, according to the state.
You mean agricultural and residential?
Agricultural enterprises or commercial enterprise in combination, according to the state.
There's a little more flexibility in that.
There's a lot more range than even that particular statement.
But to have a commercial event facility, for numerous people, if it's written for agriculture and environment,
You don't need any.
but.
But it doesn't specify anything in there. Of course, this
Okay, but it's-
D doesn't say.
Didn't I see it that way?
I was trying to get to, if it's agricultural, which we found with some of these, like the ability to have restaurants there with finger food is something that's allowed in an agricultural zone by the state agricultural. What I was trying to get at was, do you agree?
Ag and markets.
Ag and
markets.
Yeah.
So it only allows things like finger food, doesn't allow restaurants. Once you get into silverware and sit down doing food, there's a question as to whether that allows it. I was trying to deal with AR3, it was all agriculture and everything else. You've got residential need, and I just think it's a real disturbance to have residential in this kind of a small zoning district that have been impacted. And also allowed by ag markets by events.
I can understand that. I think perhaps it may be helpful to go to the state code on that.
Yeah, so maybe a line in after,
Because
after the districts. where it
ag and
says-
markets and has a whole section on
That's right.
that.
Cans and
But,
cans.
but that is still embedded in this, is a commercial events facility, totally different than ag and market issue. If you were going to have, so we have plenty of AR3, which has nothing to do with agriculture. We've got plenty of agriculture, unless we change dramatically, what can be done by a principal community use in the AR3 district, it's sort of irrelevant. And God said, you shall talk about agriculture.
Only an acronym.
So commercial, so when this comes up and you want to do a commercial events,
No, I'm not
no,
saying.
you're a good example because you are in an ag district. So this has nothing to do with ag district. You can put an ag district anywhere you want. So ag district now becomes an ag and markets issue. This is our quote unquote residential municipal zoning. They live in parallel. It is very difficult. So if you aren't in an ag and market, you've not declared yourself an ag and market district, or you are not actively engaged in agricultural easement, then you are not covered by ag and market. You just might be in the AR3 district, me, Mara Lindstrom, with my fabulous stone house, and I want to do my fabulous stuff. Ag and market's got nothing to say in an AR3 if you're not
Operating.
operating.
So if you look
a farm.
at point E, exemptions, maybe it's covered in point E where it says on review of the code enforcement agency, commercial events determined to be regularly occurring and usually associated with such use approved such as agricultural tourism enterprises. So does that cover off your concern, Patrick?
That, in that is where the code enforcement officer has a lot of leeway here, because the code enforcement officer then say, okay, I'm now looking at Patrick and Diane's farm, and they're in a
They are.
Ulster County, no, AR doesn't matter, they're in an Ulster
Oh,
County
yes.
agricultural district. They are claiming, tax exemption for being a farm. So now I'm gonna say, are what they doing an agricultural tourism enterprise? Code enforcement officer and the planning board, we should at that point send it to ag and markets. Ag and markets is very involved in this typically and says, yes, what they are doing is a agricultural tourism. That's fine, they can go and do it, but they still, this is a local law versus state law, they go in parallel. Say, yep, you can do that, but you still are going to have a site plan review perhaps.
Right.
And come to us and,
Or special use.
or a special use permit still.
Right.
So the special use permit, then for that is the parking gonna be okay, ag and markets is not looking at that. Is the lighting okay? Are you far enough away? So they really run in parallel. You think of Westland. when
So do
we
you
did that.
agree it should come out?
No,
No.
no, I think it should stay the way it is, because it's really, what I think the problem key is
Well, I and NR.
INR, I think should come out.
There
I
you
mean,
I
yeah, I mean,
You know what, maybe I was, let's do, sorry, I'm just starting to run. Let's get back to Patrick's first point. So you're looking for something to exempt AR. Or do you want something that says in a county area? I mean, what is it that you're at?
My conflict with this is the conflict between, I don't want commercial stuff going into a 3 acre lot. I would agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. Okay, that's not my point. But my point is that Diane and I had to go through over years worth of fighting to try to organize the two conflict between ag market and commercial because they just don't meet up. At least in our situation, it's-
And I don't think they ever,
they
are
probably, I
going
don't
to.
think they are
They are
going
never
to.
going to. I don't think we can resolve it. I think we can basically get the largest common denominator, which is you got a very unique characteristic and a big problem for somebody across the street, assuming you didn't like the bar. I sort of made it, seriously, one off, the bulk of these
That was
are,
the start of it.
right.
That was.
So what would you?
and
what would
ag
you
markets
propose?
has cleaned up from what we did before.
Oh, yeah.
So we won't have,
Yeah, but Mark, what would you propose then? Because you're saying you don't want, you do want the
no matter what the ag and market.
ag districts to have their ruling.
No matter what we can, and
But Patrick agrees, he doesn't want AR3 because of the size. of
you
the
will
lot.
have, there'll be no way, we can say that, but AR3 could be, you could have 50 acres of
That's a,
your AR3,
Right.
you have 50 acres, and you've got your beautiful stone house, and then once again, you're gonna have a farmer who comes and says, I can't stay in business unless you let me do weddings also.
So is
So
there
then we-
something to say in an ag district where the total contiguous land exceeds 30 acres?
That's not a bad idea. Just because you're in an AR3 zoning doesn't mean.
maybe the issue,
And it gets to be
maybe the issue, and I
too much.
talked about this a little bit when we had a couple of projects in front of us. Maybe the issue is just the way in which the projects comply with the site plan and special use plan. Namely, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And we had a lively debate going back, it was 2 or 3 years, as to whether or not you can review a special use permit only once in the lifetime of the project, or you can set a time frame of every year or every 2 years. Now, the little bit of research, I'm a lawyer, that I've done, and or presentations that I've heard, you can set a review of a special use permit with a degree of reasonableness. So for example, and Amber, you'll appreciate this, we heard it last week. If you set a special permit for a cemetery and say every 5 years you're gonna review it, well, that's ridiculous. Suppose they violate something and tell them to discontinue and move all move the bodies, no. And even the same with a restaurant venue. You don't want to shut them down. Or potentially in that case, you could, if they don't comply with the special use permit, be it related to parking, the things that we rule on, parking, lighting, the recent presence of ambulance, crew, not emergency services, or sound. So maybe we need to be more definitive somewhere in here that the planning board reserves the right to set the review of all of these special use permits, of all these commercial entities, to see if they're complying with the prescriptions of the special use permit. Because we've seen some of the violations of that and the inability for whatever reason.
Well, is that just your application of the special use criteria that wasn't as strident, or was it that it wasn't in the code that you couldn't apply?
Well, I don't know if it belongs here, but I think when we grant a special use permit, we should always look at, and you have to come back every year or every 2 years or every 5 years to see whether or not you're in compliance with it. That would solve my problems with walking down.
Rather than it just getting the permit and what we're.
Right.
There was a.
No, we could, we can
We can
put it,
add one.
we can add,
But
it's
it's
not
not all
mandatory.
you can
no, so we do sometimes, but
Right.
it's more like make it mandatory.
We would.
add. Right, so that's the difference. One is
And we would.
we're not
tell you-
applying it consistently versus the inability.
But we see one every
Well,
4
we
years.
were also told, we were also told that we could only do it once. And we couldn't say, all right, we'll see you
A
next year.
biannual review.
Yeah, we were told that we could not.
Well, didn't they have in one of the other laws, a biannual review of some?
I think you can maybe for health, safety, building, fire, but not us continuing to like making sure,
But if they're in violation of their own special use.
then you're supposed to complain to the code enforcement officer, and the code enforcement officer is supposed to do something, and the code is supposed to do something, that's what Mary Lou. has always
Right, so
been saying.
what you're saying is they had a special use that was use A, and now over time they've evolved, they're doing A and a little bit of B and a little bit of C.
Or they're not.
That's a code
right,
violation.
right.
That's not a review.
See, but I'd like to push the envelope and get other opinions as to whether or not if we violate the special use permit and we set in motion at the time of the granting of that, an annual review or every 2 years. It doesn't matter that, yeah, you could send to the code enforcement officer, but oh, by the way, we're gonna review it also. I don't see the problem with that.
So,
And it's not that we're gonna send it to court, we're simply going to lift the special use permit.
Okay.
I don't see a problem with that. I agree. And I.
you could at least, well, I have no idea what,
How
if
many
there is.
special use permits you're gonna have to review every year?
We don't give out that many.
Well, it's only going forward, right?
Yeah. we
And I don't think we're gonna have that many.
I can't.
There aren't that many
I don't
places,
disagree with you.
there aren't that
I'm
many
just
places
questioning
that are
how much
viable.
extra work you're putting
Okay.
in.
I have no problem with
So
like,
the-
you didn't put my comments up on this, but thank you.
So
I don't think we-
the takeaway on this is find wording for recurring special
Whatever
use permit
we're
reviews, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the wording now. Let's agree that we'll ask Mary Lou or someone for the wording on it.
Specific to commercial events.
Yeah, my point just being, there are overlaps or gaps.
No, I understand. I was using a hammer to solve a problem that might be used in some.
Okay,
I solved it too.
all right, so
Those notes out.
Which ones? You
The
guys-
ones that I- sorry, the ones that I made.
now, what about the other ones, the AR3, the AD3?
Well,
So,
the other notes that are in there are to remove industrial and natural.
comment? I'm removing Rick's first comment,
Yeah.
then about AR3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're taking out AR3.
I just don't think that in an industrial or a natural resource zone has any benefit or rationale on why they should operate any commercial event center.
Right,
Industrial.
Are you
is-
taking out the R5 as well?
No, I don't know about that.
I don't think you heard, but I can tell you, the town board was never going to put that R2, R1. Or, I'm not, I'm taking R5 and I'm sorry.
Right, so there, right now, there's nothing for
R1 or
R1, R2. You can take out industrial and natural resource.
Be an A10, AR3.
Then you still have the historic. Well, I guess that has a purpose.
That has a
Yeah.
That is a purpose totally, I mean, commercial special
People could
events.
want things.
If they ever redo that, it'll be historically fantastic. for commercial special events. That'll be part of their review, when the site plan review comes to us, that they're, have the right step for.
Okay, so then
Why would you leave any residential? Why would you take out?
I just think that R5 has the acreage that it's gonna be very difficult. I don't think the town board would agree with you.
Yeah.
They're gonna say you have the size, you can do what you want.
I kind of agree with you, but I'm not sure that.
Oh, I agree
I
that you
see his
should,
point, but
I agree with what you're saying. I don't want any
So-
residential.
I don't want to answer for the town board.
Okay.
I want to propose what we want to propose.
I agree with you.
That
All
So
the
then-
Rs, the strict.
I think
Rs.
the R should all be out there,
So then
residential.
AR3 should come out.
And
No,
AR3 comes
because
out.
it's a mix, it's agricultural. and
It's agricultural, so I think R5, I would agree that R5, I, and R come out.
So the problem is, read the, you got it there, I haven't got it.
Right.
Read the definitions of
R5.
R5 and AR3.
AR3 says, district is intended to recognize and preserve the high valued agricultural lands of the town, while allowing for low density residential development. The district is further intended to complement the New York State Ag District program complement and maintain full rights to farm in these areas. So it's meant to preserve the agricultural lands and allow low density. It's not meant to use.
So then, but then you gotta stop. So then look at the principal permitted uses. You've got to take out a hell of a lot more. You can't be inconsistent, just say no commercial
Yeah, you have
events.
to take out daycare centers, you gotta take out.
Which is never gonna fly.
That's
Yeah.
different than an event.
No, it isn't.
It's
If you
commercial
read
operations.
the definition, AR3, intended to enhance and overlap with the agricultural, I don't have it in front of me, it's written in red. If you're gonna read the letter of the law like that,
It's a facility, it's a facility.
it's a facility, it's a commercial
And our
facility.
business is both agricultural and commercial. That's the same.
It's not a
term.
commercial special event.
It's not a commercial.
That, so
special
you're,
event.
you're arguing something different, Patrick. We're arguing commercial special event facility.
Although you're operating. commercial,
What's in our?
not-
That's not commercial. Commercial, you can do a commercial agricultural
I'm
operation.
okay with it.
Sure.
R5 Rural Conservation is the name of it. This district is intended to conserve large open areas of the town that are difficult to develop while allowing for both low density residential development and those compatible uses that, while they may require large acreages, also typically also involve large open spaces.
And what's the principal permitted use?
Everything.
Basically all the ones.
All
everything
the
that's
above.
permitted and everything else.
Could you pull up the schedule of
Yeah, I have.
regulations and flip back and forth?
And those are the issues, like every district allows the same stuff.
So when they finally bring the altered stuff to us, a lot was taken out. But Jerry and I would have taken even more out. Maybe we could pull even more out. So, and I'm just bringing up is, first of all, you're talking commercial's got nothing to do with it. Commercial agricultural operation.
Just you
Your
wanna have a
problem is
wedding.
whether you were under our stuff, the building code, et cetera, or this is someone having weddings.
Yeah, I know.
So
Okay.
I would love to take out R5 also, but suggest it.
Yeah, let's
Uh,
suggest taking
so let's-
R5 out. In any case, all of these come before us for site plan approval regardless.
But you can't deny anything that's in. You just need to hear about
Right.
it.
You know.
All we do is move monopoly, so you can
Yeah,
never
but-
say no.
But there's some the remediation that can take place. You can't be told.
A special use permit, planning board can deny.
Right.
So if you come for this, commercial events facilities usually take a special use permit. A special use permit, we can say, you cannot have in this place with the two Joneses and Petersons and et cetera, and it doesn't work on the plot, it's slopey, it's not a swamp.
So how about if we just said commercial event facilities shall be permitted in these zones with a special approval of a special.
Well, this
use
is
permit?
special use permit, all you have to do.
Is it?
Yeah,
Well,
commercial,
then you could say no.
Well, you know, R1, R2, and R3 has commercial events facilities in every one of those
exactly.
under special uses.
I think our
And that's also
recommendation,
silly. I mean, it's R1.
I think our recommendation should say, nothing residential, nothing natural, and nothing industrial. Let them come back and do what they're gonna do.
I agree with
Not
you.
even special.
So that would leave you an A10,
Right.
B,
You wanna have a wedding, don't have an extra house.
And
But that's-
R3, and AR3.
and AR3.
Right.
I think AR3.
And
is
eight,
gonna lose.
10.5.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
So we just tell them, take it out of our, what we're saying here, take it out of R5.
Take out R5, I, and
and
R.
then-
I know.
Right.
Now, Nicole, you didn't put it in there, but I had some better verbiage to try and make this be, like when you do exemptions. Upon review of the zoning permit application by the code enforcement officer, where commercial event use is determined to be regularly occurring use and usually associated with such use, period. The code enforcement officer may exempt a commercial event facility from the special use and.
Yeah,
site
it's
plan.
over there on the side. All of those highlighted
They're here.
words are where the comments were.
So
They might be a little bit further down the
Right,
side,
so my-
but they're there.
problem with all of that is you're gonna have to either get those into a letter or put them into the document. We're gonna have to do the town board. I have discussion. I mean, right now the county is coming back and they love the way the county is making comments on this. The county makes, puts it, it's not that hard for the ones that we agree to put it in either as a red line or highlight the things that we debate as discussions. A lot of this is just redlining. We have a few things like this. You say something, we had an animated discussion and about where we should allow commercial.
All right, so-
events.
With this, when we hand in this set, right? So right now the takeaway is the wording on special review, the annual or recurring, right? So I think we also had where we want them to engage a professional. And that was one of the things you had suggested, Aaron, where we wanted to put that in. I think we also would recommend that we have a meeting where they invite the planning board to the town board meeting to discuss it. Maybe it's better that we sit and talk to them about it as well, rather than just send it in writing.
I love
Yeah, that doesn't mean all of us, means, who's ever.
A representative.
Yeah, a
I think that's
representative
good.
or all of us, either one,
For the whole thing?
For the local.
or the ones that we feel that we want to discuss with them. Not the whole thing, the ones that are.
I'm gonna say,
Open
that's gonna be a
The
long,
problem is,
long
Tara,
meeting.
problem is that in the town board's public hearing.
Right.
It's a one-way street. You're talking to them, they're not answering.
Correct, that's why I don't want to do it. That's why I want it to be a dialogue, not
How would we?
I
monologue.
don't know.
We'd have to like that in executive section.
I don't
Can't
think
do that
they
in
need,
executive session.
I don't think they need it in
No,
an
I-
executive session, I think they just need to invite us to discuss it. And if we, and if we have a concise list of the 3 or 4, 5 things that we feel the most strong
Right.
about, whatever that is, and just hit that and say, we'd like to present these and what our views are on this.
And then your comments are instantly in their minutes.
And I go to the meetings and listen to why they're coming up with these ideas. And most of the time they have a good reason. Sure. But it doesn't say that in the code because we're only getting the verbiage. So when you ask them, why the hell did you do that? What's your rationale behind it? They go, oh, because of, oh, didn't even think about that. Okay, moving on, so
Or it might be a bad idea.
exactly.
Okay.
So, but how do we consolidate this in at this point? So ML says remove I and R, and DP says, why not R2, R1, or R2? So we sort of figured. with
So
acreage
should I
support.
remove-
Should
Right,
we take your
so-
comment out?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to remove it.
Yeah.
I think we've covered it.
I would, moving on.
And should we add in, this is why I'm saying when they're all comments on the side, it's kind of confuse them a little. Like, this doesn't show what we decided upon.
Well, I think that's the intent of this meeting.
Correct.
is
So,
to
did we
edit it
decide
down.
upon R5 also? We're gonna throw back to them and say no R5?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
So you might just have to refresh your page. That's all.
I'm fine
I
with
added
it.
R5
Yeah, yours is
and I
on.
took it out as your specific comment. I made it a general.
Mine got-
I wish it would just
Are you adding the PDF or adding the Word document?
the PDF.
Yeah, but that's- Get yourself a note.
But it's easier going forward.
I'm looking at the
Refresh
Word
the
document.
whole.
Yeah.
It's there, you gotta give it a minute. Moving on.
Moving on, you're right.
All right,
Is
shall
there
we
no-
move?
For the future local laws that you guys discussed, do you just want me to put the red line version in there?
Yes.
What I'm doing right now is putting everything that they're sending.
I know, but that's a
I
good
didn't wanna
point
leave
because it's
anything
nice to
out.
see who has that thought process so that we can ask them why they come up with that rather than just a red line and we don't know what it is.
No, she meant the
No, I
red
mean the
line,
document that they sent to me.
she meant like the CFR document, the.
I didn't know if that was all
that.
necessary.
No, you can find it. I'm just being more on.
I think
and
you
looking
just
at
put the-
Word instead of the
Okay,
PDF.
I
The
got you.
salient, the one that you want us all to focus on, just that, nothing else.
Or you just number them in the thing, you out, like sometimes you just put one, and
Yeah.
then the document, 2 in the document, and then, always go to document 1, and the other stuff is there for backup in case you need it.
So,
All right, so,
so we're taking out the.
I remember
Right,
we took a lot
invite
of
the
time on
meeting.
that.
well, that's the hardest part. This is probably the one that I have the
It's
biggest,
the biggest issue.
except a lot.
What's the way to you?
Okay,
Where from?
now mine is not open. So, other than the D, everybody, looked like everybody was good with E, F. The applicant for the commercial events facility shall submit a site plan.
What if it was or their, what do you call that, representative?
It doesn't, we don't have to say that. The applicant has to do that if they're not.
Okay, got it.
All right, and then the number of events shall be limited to maximum 12 per calendar year. Each of the activities counting the separate event, 2 or more separate events with the clients are held on the same day shall be counted as 2 events respectively. Property owners,
And I have a question.
personal non-business events shall not be included.
You say 12 events a year, and that just makes me think about like the racetrack.
The racetrack was over.
They have their own,
Yeah, there's a whole section of code
They're
for it.
totally,
Moving on.
they have their own section of
Event,
law.
okay,
And
event
isn't it-
hours.
Isn't it also the case? That's for commercial events, but if there's an agreement that they'll just do it and not charge for it as a fundraiser, they can have an event there every night.
Exactly, and what you have to remember to do is look at racetrack, and you have to look at the definition of commercial events is
So it's like a
the
campground.
business use of a parcel for conferences, banquets, festivals, weddings, or other similar celebrations or educational activities conducted ancillary to another approved or allowed use subject to standards. So the racetrack, if they wanted to do
It's not in
weddings,
that definition.
they would, if they wanted
Oh.
to, they'd have to apply.
They could do 12 a year.
They could do 12 a year on top of all that.
But what Rick is saying, if they're doing it for
Well,
not, no
doing it for
remuneration,
Exactly.
so.
And one could argue that if they're doing it every
But they have to get a special.
No,
So,
it's outside of our special. use
Outside of
zone. So for example, when we did one of them, we said you can only have acoustic music between the banquet party. And I'll bet you somewhere can say, yeah, but for those pro bono things, that has nothing to do with the commercial event, special use you do, they can clean up your
You
file.
can amplify
So
every
you can
day.
do it in marble town.
exactly.
so do you want a line in G that says pro bono
Well, I
events
think we
shall
should
be
do something.
included in the count?
Yeah. I don't think so.
I don't know.
Specified,
Under this
personal.
Oh, yeah, you can do a certain amount of purchase.
No, well, this is a personal non-business event, and what Rick is pointing out is then you get bogged in this, a personal non-business, if I was the most social person under mankind, that means every single weekend, if I was able to, and you can't, then it comes into landowner's rights, you can't say, Martin, you're a
You can't
party
have a party.
maniac, sorry, you can't have a party, if you were to have booked to go for 60 people every weekend, sucks for your neighbors, but you can do it, and we can't,
Landowners, right?
So let's just
Landowners rights.
reel back in. So the point is, the pro bono events, we're doing it for the church, is coming over and having church. event.
You're doing an educational event.
I don't think those are covered by this well.
Right, so do you
They're
want
not.
them covered under this? Is that what you're feeling?
I want something to cover them so that it's not every week.
I don't think you
I don't think you can.
You can't.
because
you
then it
cannot,
becomes a
because why?
personal
Why don't you think you can?
because it's land law. You
landlord.
can do whatever you want on your land without.
Without.
As long as it's
justification.
not commercial.
Not-
So if you happen
I
to
live in
be,
R5, I can have a party every night.
you know, a party every night, you want to have a party every night to raise money for the Earthworm Foundation?
Rick, you comfortable with that explanation?
I mean, I don't like it either. I
No,
agree
I
with you,
understand what you're saying, but I don't. legally
Otherwise, you would say you're
Legally, I
gonna have
don't
12 parties. a
which is
year.
why it looks like this. And it's exactly how Arrowwood has used it to get around things. We know we have a lot of events. Sometimes people do some pro bono stuff. But
All right, moving on.
we can't, on that one, I agree.
Yeah,
So if that's something, once again, to put in your note,
yep, we'll put something in
Is there
there.
a
that
way
say,
that
Is there a way
can-
to limit pro bono?
And I think the biggest issue, people who live in that general area, some of them will tell you the biggest issue is the number of events that have, but the traffic, that noise.
Okay. So I'll
so
make
that
note.
we can regulate.
If that could be, regulated. it would be also-
Right, so that's one of the one, right. All right, now I lost it. Let's go back. The next item was the hours of operation. I know I wanted to limit some of that.
So then more limited now. Friday, Saturday, it's not, Friday and Saturday is 9 to 11, and Sunday through Thursday is 5 to
Right, and I think there's,
Mm-hmm. 10.
That's
You
reasonable.
can't tell somebody,
I think midnight is too late.
that's just for the
That's
breakdown.
It depends on if you're 25 or.
Well, the
That's
people
set up
have to,
for
people have to be out, the music has to be off by 11.
I would say by 10.
What's the racetrack? Which should be the
No.
same as whatever the racetrack shut off on.
What's the rate?
I think it's 11.
So this makes it more stringent. This is making it more stringent than our
You're
current
putting
law.
guidelines around it, but
The guidelines will always vary. You could be, before, you could have it any day of the week, 9 o'clock in the morning to 11 p.m.
You know, so-
Now, If it's not Friday or Saturday, you have to cut it off. the 10th. They're making it more stringent.
I
Got
think
it.
that's fine.
I think it's-
All right, so you
I
can
mean-
take out that, you can take out my season exception.
That's why the Friday, that's why the racetrack is to 11. because it's Friday.
So take out both of those, there's the, not more than 3 days if you leave after.
Oh, no, the more than 3 days, need more than 3 days after the approval of the granted, right? It said that you needed 3 days notice if you're doing it. I think we had decided that we needed more than 3 days notice, right?
Yes.
Okay, so seasonally, taking out that one. All right.
You also, I mean, that would be great if it was seasonal, but you're gonna end up on like people debating. Well, when's the season start?
Well, the
I have an
seasons are
apple
pretty
on the
well
tree.
marked on the calendar to start and end the seasons, aren't they?
In summer, spring, fall.
I think there's 4 of them last time I checked. So just so you know.
But I know, but you,
You
you
need
get,
to
you're
enumerate
right.
what they
you
are,
use
or
that.
throw-
You get into a, we'll get into a bit of a cesspool about, yeah, but that means.
I agree that we'll remove it. You can stop and move forward. Okay. Where was the note on the, more than 3 days? Where was that from? Which letter?
I took it off.
No, the more than 3
Oh.
days we need.
Oh, no, I left it on.
Yeah, Where's
It's
that?
the,
What letter is that?
H. Definitely.
this is not as.
Are we comfortable with that? Everybody comfortable?
Yeah, well, we definitely need more than 3 days.
Nicole, the yellow mark is the new comment, right?
No,
Yeah.
you-
if you put the yellow mark.
It corresponds to the,
Yeah, we need to stick on the yellow. mark.
there are some,
I don't see that on my screen. So.
there are multiple comments
Oh, really?
sometimes under one yellow mark, so they just kind of like,
Oh, now. Okay.
So, yeah,
Gotta
if
get the contrast.
if
level,
you-
right?
Click on that and see what our.
Yes, okay. So Jay, the designated portions of the, are we good to move on to Jay?
Yes.
Yeah. Designated portions of the property can be used for such events, and meet applicable yard requirements.
Gonna be yard setback.
look
I
up
think it
there,
should just
add
say
that back
applicable
after yard.
setback.
Right.
No, and now it has to say yard setback, because everywhere else the document we call it a yard setback. So that way it's consistent with the whole document.
Okay, all parking for events shall be off street.
Drop my.
You're gonna take that out?
Okay.
It's implied. in there.
M,
Just take it.
required as a condition of approval by the planning board, applicants shall monitor noise decibel levels.
My comment here had to do with the survey that has to be done, or the sound survey that has to be done for all these events take place. And again, it's only for
They call that a noise.
decibel,
Sound.
Decibel.
decibels survey. Again, it only has to be done for the commercial event, it doesn't have to be done for any of the photo events.
Right.
And what we elect, and maybe it's a matter of us being more stringent, but the applicant themselves select somebody to do it, which boils down to them doing it, if they even bother doing it. And then they sometimes submit it to the building inspector, sometimes not submit to the building inspector. And it's that kind of stuff is the reason why you really should be looking at the special use permit that says that you have to do X, Y, Z, more than just once in a lifetime special use. So I'm trying to say here, it's the planning board that designates who's gonna do the survey, sound engineer. Because we generally have our sound engineer
So we,
review
remember,
their survey and then they pay for us. So this is the sound engineer.
but we cannot force somebody to use a person, but we can say, we got a great idea. This must be done by a third party certified approved person, but we can't say you can use this measurement.
That's
But
it.
Okay.
it has to be,
I like that.
because everybody's got a little pocket
They have
thing,
a pocket.
and they're not doing it.
Right,
So
my
it
phone
must,
has
they
it.
gotta bring someone in. Right.
Mhm.
So,
So leave that comment in,
yes,
then?
Yes.
Okay.
but I think that is something also that we're gonna get a lot farther, I can tell you, but I know you're disagree with me, if they write the exact pros for it and stick it in the document, and then they can just accept it. Doing this stuff on the side or whatever, people accept your ideas if you make it low resistance. This is a high resistance thing, they're gonna have to type in a new big sentence, so if you wrote in, you want me to go in and write in all the stuff we agreed to, in order to ensure objective adherence, to sound limitation and approval, Said sound reports shall be done by a third party entity, the applicant, and then you, I mean, that needs to be in there, so they just say accept.
So did you send that to Nicole?
It's right here, but the problem in Nicole, after if we agree on this, we gotta stick it in the document we send back to them. The same thing with R5, whatever, you gotta,
Yeah, strike it out.
you gotta just strike it out in the document, they can look at that and say, oh yeah, we love this, we reject this one, we accept this one. Looking at comments like this,
That's fine. That, it can be done that way. They send me the Word document. I think
Yeah,
so.
okay.
And then in this comment, I can give you the same, in addition, and under no circumstance is amplified music allowed unless it is used within a structure with four walls that is equipped with the appropriate sound sampling material that keeps the sound at a level commensurate with the town's sound ordinance.
so that would be none of the outdoor stage stuff.
Okay, so that you pop
That's
that
your-
in
that's
there.
your
we got
second,
to
that's-
I see what you're saying, but Nicole can just add your
Yeah.
verbiage to
That
the.
whole
Add
thing,
that.
yeah.
Exactly.
I don't wanna go ahead and do that ahead of time.
No.
It's-
I'm just saying, when
Yeah.
you, like, our approach before was to send this with comments like that, and it's not, we're not
We're
gonna,
not gonna get.
we're not gonna anywhere with
Right.
it. Once we've reviewed it, then stick it into the document, so we can accept or reject.
So N, fireworks,
Isn't that a state law?
It has to be in compliance.
I added and shall not be permitted during the work period. Like, I didn't spell everything. And obviously they are, but, because they aren't permitted during over period, people don't.
yeah,
No.
so are we leaving fireworks in?
Yeah, they shall comply because technically,
Oh, so we don't need
we
the,
don't need to put my, comment in there.
right, we don't need that parents comment.
Which
Um,
one?
The one.
And
on-
shall not be permitted during no
Take
work
that out?
periods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What about, Bruce,
You
your
can take
comment?
that out above it.
Okay.
Cover that statement, which is good.
In my, I don't know how, underneath Lauren's no burn comment, I have a comment here. You can take that one, I guess. What I'm, well, let me read it to you. I don't know if it's necessary.
The last
It's,
one,
it's a new item.
Open it.
yeah, new section.
140-35, letter P.
Let it be, given the nature of commercial events and impact on certain neighbors, the special use permit shall be renewed every 2 years by the applicant facility. The purpose is to ensure compliance with all agreed provisions, all provisions of the special use permit. Mary Lou's gonna tell us the rest of the code enforcement is supposed to do. And my attitude is, we only have one code enforcement officer, who's part-time, who's part-time. And it just seems.
Letter Q is covered. Because
And then
that's,
letter Q is
you can
covered.
get rid of Q, but you might as well just throw in.
I would
Let-
say
Put in letter P,
Let it ride.
let it ride and see if, yeah, put
Yeah,
in,
put it in.
add
So
new
throw
section,
that
letter P,
Suggested
Yep,
letter
put it
P
in.
as Rick has
as
written
Rick
it.
did, and see.
Okay.
Exactly, if he doesn't
Take out
strike it down as being not legally admissible.
And then you're saying, I'm sorry.
Get
what
rid
are
of Q
you
because
saying
we-
take it out?
I would take it out.
Because
Delete
every
P, take out.
special use
Q.
permit must have a site plan attached to it, and by reviewing a site plan, you review all of it.
All right,
Can I just bring up a point, GP?
Yeah.
If you're gonna do that, how, somehow we're gonna have to get feedback from somebody as to whether there's been violation.
Well, it,
complaints.
yeah, I kind of remember, I think it's 3 years ago, more I'm checking on this, maybe it's 4, but at least 3. When we did the first review of the unmanned facility,
Yeah, we had to get feedback.
we actually got, Jerry actually gave us reports. Well, first of all, what happened was, we found that there was a whole bunch of stuff that hadn't. Right?
Right.
And then we found out this was some stuff that they did do. So Jerry had some of the things that they did do, and we did it. And they promised, oh my God, they were willing to take sign of blood, that they would be good, going forward, they would be good with the duties. Well, it turns out they weren't good with the duties. Yes.
So the feedback will be there.
So what you do.
So if there is no,
Feedback will determine if there's any violation.
Exactly.
What you need is that there's no feedback that they're getting.
Right, well, that's my.
so if we have no feedback, then we
There's
just give the renewal.
Right now, there's no feedback.
Or there's no feedback. And we don't have the ability, according to our attorney, we don't have the ability to review it anyway. And I, this is. I'm
Well, there is a feedback loop, because people will make comments if they're seeing problems
And if Jerry
around.
doesn't
it.
But we don't get it, we don't see.
So,
We'll make note of that also, so we do have
So we
feedback,
have that.
we're just not looking at
Correct.
We're not-
it. It's
so what
it's
you're saying
important.
is
my
when it,
point.
when it comes time,
Right. I'm sorry, yes. You're right. We don't get it.
But if we did a review,
Because
we would get
were
it.
told by our attorney that we're not allowed to do reviews. You
So
gotta
we're
make your mind up and that's it. You're not- And my attitude is, no, that's not what I heard or read.
So we could throw
when it
in.
comes time, we would ask both the constable and the code enforcement officer
for their
for their
stuff.
reports pertaining to that.
I mean, you have to submit,
Right?
you have to submit reports to the Department of Health, right? Right. They can come in and check these.
So we can solicit all that feedback.
Yep.
when it comes time for this.
Spoilable.
Mm.
Right, so just, so we were asking for the wording for special use review at a frequency, but it sounds like you have the wording in here, we think that's the wording, we're not asking for that, so we can strike that. So coming out of this one, we still want to have them overall engage a professional for review, we still want the invite to the meeting, and then the pro bono activity limit, we want to review and speak to them about how they might limit that, so that it's not just a free for all, parties all day. That, we can cover that with our attorney and see what they may think, but, right, those are the three categories on
Yep.
there.
Am I
There's a different-
leaving in all of these other comments from Mark?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for Bruce, for example, with the pro bono, you could say something like, for events that are done pro bono on behalf of
A third party.
not-for-profits, not-for-profit third parties, parentheses, not referring to the applicant themselves doing something personal. Dot, dot, dot,
Right, well, there's a difference between personal and pro bono.
personal pro bono for third parties.
It's doing it for an outside organization.
Maybe we need something. in there.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what we can do with that third party. It's a key. I think that's the,
Yeah, third party.
Okay.
Moving on to N?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay,
please.
hopefully,
And it's already in law.
What?
I said,
And,
N. No, local law N, sorry,
is that accessory?
yeah,
that's
already
accessory
a law.
structure. use.
Oh, accessory structure. I thought
Yeah.
it was like.
Are you?
I was-
You
No,
gotta keep
I'm not.
up.
I
I'm
was
not aiding you. Let's keep going. It's too early for her.
I don't know what drug you're taking.
Sorry, I'm
Chair.
reading my-
And hopefully this one doesn't take 45 minutes, we're gonna be here for like
I have no
7
comments.
hours.
It takes as long as it takes.
Be ready. I guess I'm
Well, I will be leaving at
All
a
right,
certain point.
all right. Go ahead. Let's go. Let's up at the top. Let's start with N. What do we have?
So
All right, so. This is confusing math. I doubt this is well. What is this? Accessory structure located in the rear, side step, not attached to the rear. Such a fashion. What's the difficulty in the math?
that it can't be done.
If your rear yard setback was 40 feet wide,
Right.
times 200 feet long, so you're in 40 times 200, times the 0.25 of, it's at 8,000 square feet, but you take 40 times 200.
What's, sorry, I'm sorry, your point where you can't do the math is related to which C? Or D? or
B,
D?
25% long.
the aggregate ground area covered by any accessory building in a rear yard. Once again, rear yard means to be rear yard setback, or is that really?
Says
Your
rear yard set-
backyard.
It says rear yard setback.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It
it
says
doesn't.
rear
It says
yard
rear
shall.
yard.
It's in parentheses.
It says rear yard
Rear
setback.
setback. I love the way you all-
No, B.
B.
Oh, and D is talking about B. It says,
Yeah.
it says
No,
rear
No, we're talking
yard.
about the
Shall.
rear yard, shall, there's no setback.
But
Exceed-
leave this
Oh,
continually.
read
It
the
shouldn't have
rear yard.
ended.
It says such.
Shall not exceed 20% of the rear yard setback.
Right. So I think that should say any buildings in the rear yard setback.
No, because they really mean the rear yard. This is the horror of this. This is, so rear yard setback is your setback, right? But you can't put anything in.
Right.
This is, I think, trying to say, this is why that's confusing. Your rear yard, like we think of our backyard.
Yes.
So any accessory building in your backyard.
Yeah.
Shall not exceed 25% of the rear yard setback area. So my,
So your rear yard setback is 40 feet. The length of your property is 200, right?
0.25,
That's
so that means you have a 2,000 square feet of accessory building.
Yeah, but that's like a shed and whatever else.
No, shall not exceed. right?
Shall not exceed,
it's
but
gotta
to
be
go
under
up to,
2,000.
if I had more than, I mean, I've got more than two.
Sure.
two-
You have a large
200
rear yard.
Large yard, that means I could put, some people could put 8,000 square
That's
feet of
correct.
accessory dwelling, isn't that a little excessive at that point? That's-
Accessory structure. not
Accessory
dwelling.
structure, sorry, accessory structure.
Well, what if they want a garage?
An 8,000 square foot garage,
Hey,
you have enough room here that somebody could put a Walmart in technically.
Alright.
Seriously,
so then there
So
should be a
we
square
got-
footage cap.
half is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I agree with that.
But taking that cap into consideration, you need to have somebody want to build a barn, a horse barn, or something on the property. That's
An indoor
where
riding
price cap needs to be
Well, if
taken
it's
into consideration.
agricultural, it's always done.
This would be
So-
somebody in R3, or in R5, not putting up a Walmart.
From the side.
Right.
yard, it's not in the back.
All right, so then how about we just said, shall not exceed 25% of the rear yard setback area,
Up to
Up
a
to a
maximum
maximum. Up to a
of,
maximum.
I don't know what.
2,500 square feet.
Not to exceed the
That's
size
a
of the
40 by
principal
60.
residence, but you want a barn
Right.
bigger than your house. Right, so not.
But a 40 by 60 barn is 2,400 square. That's monstrous. Patrick?
That's almost the size, that's the footprint
In-
of a barn, huge barn.
That's what I mean, in R5, that's a realistically large structure.
And your barn could easily be bigger than, if it's really doing agricultural, your barn could easily be bigger than your house. Barns are always bigger than.
Nicole, you got all that?
No.
So this is
That's
another
very
one of,
unclear.
this is another one of those that you're
What
right.
size did you say was reasonable? 40 by what?
I just said 40 by, just in context, 40 by
Right,
60
40 by
is
60.
2,400 square feet. That's the size of a 9-car garage. Just talking on that.
Which is a 9-car garage is a 9 stable barn.
So you have that kind of space. You build the first building 40 by 60. You move over 5 feet, you build the second one. That's more than 5 feet. So the firewall space. You move over 20 feet, you build another 40 by 60 structure. You move over another 20 feet, you build another 40
Well,
by
you-
60.
right, you-
Depends on how big your.
Right,
acreage
exactly.
is. You've
So-
got 100 acres, you've got plenty of room to put all kinds of buildings.
Correct.
But
So
if
what I'm
you're in
saying is
R1,
you're
you
gonna
don't.
limit what one structure is, but you're not limiting the number of structures. So
No,
now I
I'd
can-
say
Well,
a
we're
total
getting
limit
somewhere.
of total square.
We're getting there, though. The number of structures is lower.
Exactly.
So.
I'm just saying, we could have cases in this town where somebody could accessory because, or is this something that should be in certain districts that you limited more? It's gonna be self-limiting in R1. Some of R1s are gonna have, 50 feet in front and then they go back 20 feet or whatever, and you get one little shed. It just self-limits by the R1, but when you have somebody who has 7,000 feet of road footage, we have a lot of those.
Yes.
And then they build, lots and lots of little storagey type whatever things.
Well, that's why.
Is that what we want to do with our
Well,
ground?
let's just.
Once you got 5 acres.
In
5 acres
G,
is a
though,
huge- Is a huge, 5 acres is what,
You're not,
how many feet by how many
you're not
feet?
getting my guess.
1 acre
5
is 400 by
acres is
5.
200,000
I'm not
square.
sure how I get exactly what you're saying, but I don't understand how you propose to limit it with that.
Can we just take a quick breather here? If you go to letter G, it talks about cargo or portable storage container, and there's limits as to how many you can have.
Limits on the cargo and portable storage.
Right, but if you're putting up a shed or a building or storage, this law limits that.
Right.
Anything
No,
outside,
just for cargo, just if it's a container.
well, or a shed.
No, it's just
No,
cargo or
containers,
portable
those are just
storage.
containers. If you yank in a container.
So I have
So you're saying I go
6
back,
outbuildings on my property.
you do or you're asking?
I do. Okay. Currently, none of which are 2,500 square feet or more. I think the largest one is 24 by 36. But there's still 6 of them. And I feel like building a 7th because I have room.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you would, I understand
Well,
the
that's not, if
concept,
you're
but I
meeting,
don't
if
see
you're
how
meeting
you
the
would,
setbacks,
how you do that.
I comply
available
with all
space to build
setbacks.
one, you should be able to build one.
Well, but the 25% number is fine.
Right.
But, which I think that period works. It's the addition of the Walmart type buildings that are back of that. That's where the cap should be. And there needs to be a number. Maybe it's in R1, it's 1,000 square feet. In R5, it's.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you read it out loud, Rick? It's a public meeting, you can't just pass notes.
So
I'll meet you
I
at
think,
your locker after study hall. You can
I
tell me.
think that we should limit. I would put in a total limit
Oh, structures?
of square footage.
A square footage.
It could be a square footage cap.
For each building.
No, in total. In higher than, so it is
Hang on just a second.
0.25%.
Well, we have an ADU law. Okay, we have an ADU.
Right.
So the ADU law is already in place. This would be accessory structure. Maybe we should define better what an accessory structure is. Maybe that would solve it.
I think it's defined in the law.
A building or structure incidentally related, appropriate and clearly subordinate to, and located on the same lot occupied by the main building or structure. So nowhere does it say that you can't have.
Can you have it? Can you inhabit it?
Nowhere in the,
Okay, so that's the problem.
Right.
I think that the law needs to be better defined, that it cannot be
so
something.
the definition needs to be something that it's not.
Otherwise, it could hypothetically be turned into a,
Hotel.
exactly.
exactly.
It'd be a
Okay.
big acreage.
Or a
Ton-
seasonal.
Now, I understand your hotel.
I think the cap of the square footage fixes the problem if we don't want to redefine the actual definition.
So let's review this square footage. So it's not the square footage of the foundation.
No.
It's the total usable square footage in the structure. So if it's a two-level structure, you're going with 1,200 and 1,200, not,
That's
so,
why the
I mean,
cap of the
more specificity in it, right?
occupancy square footage.
Occupancies.
Exactly, and
So
or you,
accessory structure,
or you change the definition.
I think that's probably
better the way
the
to
better
do it.
way. to
Well, I
go.
think we should still put a cap on the square footage, but add into our accessory structure is that this structure should not be occupiable.
Is not treated space. That's, right?
I don't know.
Well, no.
Treated
there's some-
space is heated and cooled and all that, right? So this is untreated space.
But if you put a garage, that means you can, you know, doing it.
No, You're right.
Yeah.
It should not be occupiable.
And what defines it for
Occupiable
not
is the
being
difference.
occupied?
Is what?
Occupiable is not
Yeah,
the,
but an accessory dwelling and an accessory structure should have two different definitions.
Right.
An accessory dwelling can be occupied, it can have two definitions, we have a law against how big it can be. And an accessory structure should have a cap on square footage and cannot be something that you
to be
can use,
used primarily for storage.
I think, use only for storage. Not primarily.
Only for storage. So
Only.
storage of equipment.
Farm
grain,
tractors,
feed,
equipment,
whatever.
cars, crap,
They define accessory building
structures.
structures together.
They need to be two different. It really should say accessory ADU because now we've changed the definition. Should be occupiable, an accessory structure shouldn't.
Exactly. So I think the note that we put
But the cap on the square footage is-
Yeah,
still has,
right,
it still is important
is
because
important.
you don't want a 10,000 square foot shed.
Exactly.
10,000 square foot writing.
Well, that's for
Scott,
purpose.
it is
That's-
agricultural,
Right.
okay?
No, but no, it makes a good point because hypothetically, somebody could buy that, not use it as agricultural and put their cars in. And the next time you get people to ever sell. Okay, right, so he makes a good point. If he has a 20,000 square foot riding arena, it can't be habitable. As long as it is never.
As long as it is never
protects us.
habitable, exactly.
It can, the definition just has to say ADU is occupiable. ASU,
Right.
solar structure unit is
It is
not
not
occupiable. I think that's all. I think that's
That's
all.
all. the-
That will cover up any loophole that somebody could pull and make it.
Right.
An accessory
exactly,
structure is
exactly.
not something you can have it live in. accessory dwelling, we have a law already, and there's a square footage maximum that we work
Maximum,
on.
they can only have one, not all work beautifully. Right, so the,
Chair, is that solve the problem?
So accessory building.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to work a definition. A building or structure detached from the main building and used for the purpose incidental to those of the main building. Right? Structure is anything constructed with a fixed location or in a ground, including but not limited to sheds and supporting buildings. So that,
Doesn't
you know,
solve the problem.
so what you're calling a building though, is the use, that's the primary use of the lot, right? So what you're saying is, if it's occupiable, that's what that primary use is, right?
Right, but
but
I
it's
could,
just, right, exactly.
I could have a house,
So you don't want the primary use to be residential.
I don't want any of them used to be residential.
Well, the primary
Yeah,
use can be
any-
residential.
Any,
Well, the primary use can be residential, and then you put up a normal barn or shed, or two barns, or two sheds, or walk-in, those are accessory for animals, or for storing
Right, I
your
got a
cars.
question.
It's because you also have the main building or structure should be commercial, and then you, totally, it is, so accessory building or structure incidental, related, appropriate, and clearly subordinate to and located, but something that is incidental to a main house
Right.
could be a tiny house.
Yes, but
Five tiny
ADU is
houses.
covered.
ADU covers that. My
So-
issue is what if you put a 2,400 square foot, 40 by 60 garage,
Right.
and you have an apartment up above it?
It's covered in the ADU. ADU has what the square footage is permissible, right? That ADU law.
But
Or in a garage, in a.
no,
attached
it
to the
only
house,
says one
that's it.
thing, that is not specific.
So then if it doesn't say it, it's not permitted.
No,
Yeah,
it
it
says you're
doesn't-
allowed 900, you're allowed 750 square
Sure.
feet.
Right. If the law doesn't enumerate what you can do, it's not permitted use, right? If
Or you could still use it. Is that what you're saying?
you cannot, when you go to the schedule of uses for the districts, right? If there's a use that's not
Listed.
listed, it's not permitted.
It's not all permitted.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
So then we need a cap on the square footage, and we need to identify
So-
what each one does.
no, but what you're saying is that structure is incidental to the principal use of the property. So let's just take your example where the principal use is my residence,
Yep.
right? Now I go and build something, I can't build a hotel, right? Because it's not incidental, right?
Sure.
But if your principal use is a hotel,
I can build another hotel.
That's the problem.
you can build another hotel. A 10,000 square foot is another,
Can I?
you could build,
I have
it's a
to
small
think about
hotel.
that one.
It could be,
But
if your
that's
hotel,
not as an accessory structure, you're not building.
but it does,
It could
it's
start
not
as that.
clear here, you could say,
No, you can't
You-
start at that because it's not incidental.
let's say you have a hotel.
Right.
And
Now I
you
want
wanna build a daycare center, that is incidental, as a smaller use, they only come during the day, they only come during the school year. Now, the daycare center easily in 10,000 square feet. It's gotta have parking, it's gotta have safety, it's gotta have playgrounds, whatever,
This
that's
isn't
an
wrong.
accessory use. Incidental to your resort. And now you can go do it. And then you could build another incidental thing, incidental to, which could be
Cafeteria.
a cafeteria.
I see where you're going, but I think maybe we need a clear definition of incidental use, right? What's incidental to the
My
primary?
recommendation would be we put in,
The cap, I know.
no, not the cap. I think we better define what each definition is, because right now they're combined, they should be separated. And I think if we recommend that they have two new definitions, that will solve, I think that will solve. Overall, it will solve, you won't even need to have a
You
max.
won't need to have.
The cap,
I
if
don't
we
think-
actually
because I
define
don't
that it
think
can't
that's-
be. can't be
I don't think that's workable.
Because here we've got accessory structures, and then we call them accessory buildings, so once again, it should be accessory structures are covering, is the building sub to that or not? This is why, like, professional planners and the right this stuff, that is key
Yeah.
things that end up getting people really, so it should be accessory buildings or accessory buildings. Let's start with the definition. Every single one of the accessory structures and buildings And then every time, location limitation covers accessory building structure, you get to repeat this whole thing to make it no accessory building or structure.
Yeah.
So everywhere in this, it should say structure and building, or we get rid of accessory buildings in the definition and we call it structure.
It should only talk about structures. Accessory structures and buildings definition should be split as Mark said. to-
Solves the problem.
And then this has to be only accessory structures, because we have
An
a.
accessory building unit, which actually should be redefined as ADU instead of ADU.
Right, so accessory buildings
Don't
should
even
be
exist.
C,
All right, so
accessory dwelling unit.
what's the word, how will we change it? What do we?
My recommendation is to can you read the definition. one more time? Accessory,
Oh, am I
Building.
getting rid of this comment? I'm
Yes,
editing
that's
this
the cap.
comment.
Okay.
So you should say accessory building or structure in definition should be changed to accessory buildings is one. Accessory structures,
I think accessory.
It's two.
I think accessory buildings should be,
no, because accessory buildings, you say C ADU, and you
Exactly.
refer them to that. And the only thing you define in accessory building
is,
is
C
C
ADU
accessory,
law.
C, they have a definition, C accessory dwelling
It's
unit.
like local law. It's
Or you can just say in the definition, C accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Got it?
In which definition?
Okay.
The definition of an
Accessory building, you just go a line and say C, accessory dwelling unit definition.
You have it, Nicole, keep going.
Because an accessory building
Perfect.
now is
Close it.
equal to an accessory dwelling unit, period, end of section.
Now accessory structure definition is, keep
Is.
going,
Now do a new one, except, yeah, exactly, accessory structure definition
is,
is,
go ahead.
and then this is what we have now, will be a building or structure, a structure, incidental, related, appropriate, and clearly subordinate to when located on the same lot occupied by the main building or structure. That's what we have right
Right, we're
now,
gonna change that.
but we're gonna change it.
Oh, okay.
Accessory structure is a structure incidentally related.
Incidental, comma, related,
And non-occupiable
and non-occupiable.
to a located.
So you're not changing anything, you're just moving that to its own.
We have one
Definition.
definition.
Exactly,
need
we
to-
add, accessory structure now has non-occupiable.
Okay.
That's something we.
Okay.
can-
Chair, does that work?
I'm with it.
So I'm just, I think that avoids the cap rule.
Right,
And
That's what I was.
trying to avoid, right?
because you end up in this difficulty of now
Who's
you're
gonna do the
doing
math?
accessory structures, now you don't need a special use permit or a site plan. The way this is written now, because you could put up your cafeteria, you could put up, you could end up.
So
doing-
hypothetically, under this new law that we wrote, an accessory building can still be a garage, a bar,
Barn.
a riding arena, it can be whatever you want.
Store all your,
Yep,
a workshop.
yep, hoarding
a
location,
holding
yep.
location,
And
exactly.
if you want to have an accessory building, you can see the ADU law, if
ADU
you want
law.
to occupy it.
So accessory building is basically the same as an accessory. You could write that in there, accessory building is equal to, but usually in these things, if you say C, the other one, it just means that
Sure.
comes in.
I think that solves the problem.
This is the first time in my life I ever like did the math. I'm like, oh, you can do some really lots of big stuff here.
All right, go on, moving along. There's some case law on it, but with the terms incidental and
And
customary, and I
everything
think
in here.
the
should be-
zoning board has some latitude in their interpretation.
And everything in here where they have reference to building, accessory building, the word should be changed to accessory structure.
Yes.
So. for the
It's just a whole note.
For 140-13, we should make the note of any reference to accessory building should be changed to accessory.
And that's where I personally would do a word search
Yeah, just
and a replace.
Yeah, just replace
Do a replace.
that's what it is.
And cross it
Because
out
they
more.
keep, you're right.
All right,
There's a
Or otherwise you
couple
don't-
spots where they
Keep going.
Keep flipping back and forth.
D, are we keeping that to death a little bit then?
Yeah, we're good.
He wanted
Just the addition of
No
the.
greater
I
than.
said that,
My comment.
so I thought if it's in the front, it shouldn't be no greater than principal structure.
Well,
but
that's what I
half the
put.
principal structure.
I mean, my comment was, is
No.
you could have the same size as the house.
Yeah, what if I want to build a bigger garage in my house?
Right.
Not in
You can
front.
have a
This is in front, this is in front, D is only in front,
Only in front.
meaning in front of the house?
in front of the house, in your front, exactly. Accessory structure is not attached to a principal structure located closer to the street
I don't
and
agree.
in front of any principal structure on the lot, shall occupy an area no greater than the principal structure area, except in the case of agricultural buildings.
What if I have a flag lot? Doesn't work.
Or what if I live all the way towards the back of my larger parcel?
Well, you can put the garage in front of it, it doesn't do anything doing it, this just says it could be, no greater than the size of your house, okay?
That doesn't solve the problem.
And I said, I think you could have it in front, you could have a
Right.
lot that doesn't let it, but I think it should be half the size of the
Okay,
principal.
but what if I
house.
want a 1,000 square foot double wide, I'm just talking,
Right,
and I want a 3,000 square foot garage, and I have a flag lot, I can't put it in front of my house because the double wide is already pre-existing in the back of the lot. I don't think we should be able to just, I understand that we don't want to see a monstrosity
So
in
what,
front of their house.
define your
You
front
should.
and side yard
the front and side,
lots in a flag lot? What's your front, what
Front
is,
is closest to the road.
right, so that's the driveway coming up the flag, right?
no, in a flag yard, I think, in a flag yard, I think it's defined in flag lot. The strip or access way.
Is the side yard.
Is the all side yard, and your front yard is that piece
Correct.
of the flag, that way in the back, you're right, in the flag,
It just doesn't work. I see what you're saying.
you still could, you still could have your garage in front of the house.
On a lot where the road frontage is the same front and rear, yours makes sense. We want the stuff in the back, because we want to see the house first. But on some crummy lots where there's a easement or right of way or whatever, you might not have that.
So
And-
what do you think the purpose of not having it in front of the house is
It is allowed here, no matter what.
with the size restriction?
Because people, maybe they want a larger accessory
It's
structure.
basically the difference between Bedford and Rochester. That's what this discussion.
Or do
is
you
about.
think it has to do with fire safety? fire safety?
No,
I don't think that.
It has to do with to what degree it is unattractive,
exactly.
To
This would
be
be all
driving-
for
to be-
view shed.
you shed reason to drive by, and you don't see a house, you just see an enormous
Right.
Quonset hut in front.
Well,
And so you've got a Quonset hut the size of a house, which is our
So-
current law.
I think that's
so I
the
think
question.
the old
like-
law was you couldn't put anything in your front.
No, you
yard
still
setback
can.
No, you
Yes,
still
it
can.
is.
Under
Yes,
a
you can.
hundred, under a certain size.
This is the exact same old law right now, except worded more clearly because it's very confusing. There's no change to the law that we currently have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you could do it, we have people doing it now.
This is no change whatsoever. It just rates it more clearly because people,
Lauren, I see
Had
what you're
problems.
saying with the hat, but I don't think it works just because of our font shape.
Actually, I think the 100 feet is in the increase. I thought it was just the front. yard
no, right there,
setback.
located more than 100 feet from a lot.
No, I
line.
think that's
Oh.
in the old code.
Yeah,
That's-
you're right. You
Because-
now, exactly,
They pushed
right.
it back.
you are right.
I think it's okay as well, but I'm only saying just because of our very weird accesses and easements. It's not your typical, you have the same road frontage in the front as you do in the back. It's not a curvilinear lot.
Right, so I think if, I tend to agree that if it's agricultural, you can knock yourself out because you need it.
And agriculture is gonna trump everything.
And so, Zach's point is some small houses have big garages.
Right, I mean, you can't help that your house is small, but you need to build it.
Right.
I have no problem knocking it
And, your house is where it sits on the property, so.
Okay, no, I'm just asking, sure.
If you want to change the zoning, I mean, I will just leave it at exactly as it is.
So take out these.
Take out my
Yeah,
comment.
I'm
guess.
okay with leaving it
Or,
as large as you want. I mean, is it gonna look terrible?
yeah, it's good.
I just think that, I don't think we should be able to restrict what the size of what somebody wants to put on and wear.
These are not attached. I think it's different if it's attached.
I think it's different if it's attached. I agree.
If it's attached, I would push back a little bit on it, but
Right.
attached,
I mean, you still have right here, you still have, if you're 100 feet back, it isn't that much, but you could be slightly moving if you're.
Okay. Let's keep moving. We're in agreement on D. What do we have on?
I'm in disagreement, but I'm.
But you've come to a consensus with us.
No, but you can overrule.
No, you don't have the double D rule in here, density and decimal, you know, it's. All
Go
right,
on to E.
E, there's no change.
Mar-
Oh,
Maren has
structures.
added, average height of the two structures, whichever is greater. They're adding
I
that
think that
whichever
makes
is
sense.
greater.
I think that's implied in here, but it's better to
Spell it out.
spell it out.
All unattached structures of the city are minimum 12 feet or 1/2 the average of the two heights. No. A minimum of 12 feet. Right, well, then it's implied that
I
the 1/2
think
is gonna be greater than 12.
I could just say whichever is greater.
Whichever
It
is greater.
really helps
Just clear
when
it.
you're doing it.
That's, I've done them and you were okay, but I'm okay with it.
You never know who's wrong.
The use of cargo or portable storage trailers.
Mine
as an
can come out
accessory
now.
use.
Mine was about sheds and this was about.
And I don't think it
That's
should
what
be,
that, to not limit the number of sheds.
Well, and the reason I said that is because I think there should be a limit of the number of sheds, but it shouldn't be, it should be based on zoning. So if I'm in an R1 zoning district, I should have 1 shed. If I have R2, I should have 2 sheds. If I have R5, I should have 5 sheds.
Yeah, that's graduated. I don't disagree with that concept with a few of these things.
Sure.
actually.
I just think that right now there's people on an undersized lot who have 6 sheds full of crap.
Right.
And it's definitely
So can we focus on F though right now?
Sure.
Because we'll get to that.
so
So
I don't think you should have cargo or portable storage trailers in any residential.
I agree.
can you define a cargo or portable trailer?
Yes, they're defined in.
Yeah. Like Connex, you know, the stuff that you
Like
see.
a metal container box?
Yes.
Unfortunately, you have to go,
People use that as storage, so I disagree with that.
What if they were to paint it the same color as the house?
That's actually.
I don't think they
that's
should, in
there.
a residential or in commercial setting, you should use those as storage. Build yourself the damn shed that we're letting you build, it's 900.
Even if you can't afford to build a shed, but that's.
Then you don't store as much crap on
Then how
your.
come you can afford all the crap?
And how can we put the crap and storage unit?
I just don't agree.
I don't know how we could limit what types of storage you can have.
Because it's portable, it's not affixed to the ground.
Right,
It's not portable, it's not on wheels.
it says,
It's,
use of cargo portable
Transportable.
storage
but
or
No,
bulk
just read
shipping.
the definition, that's all.
the difference is the cargo storage shed is placed on the ground. It's not constructed.
But a shed is placed on the ground, it's not
It
constructed.
could be as well, but you can also construct. a
Any
shed.
portable, reusable metal vessel originally specifically or formerly designed for or used in the packing, shipping, movement, or transportation of freight by commercial trucks, trains, and or ships. When used for any purpose other than the transporting of freight or a cargo container is a structure. So a cargo storage container is exactly,
Or anything on it. Right, because you can have like a.
Right, like the-
53-foot.
The 53 footers, right? Yep.
anything, packaging, shipping, movement or transportation,
Right.
that's implied by commercial trucks, trains, and or ships. So, no, I do not think in a residential or institutional use, you should be,
Yeah,
I mean,
non-residential.
so that's two people who think
So
that.
agricultural.
that definition up there. You said it.
Yes, is unfortunately, you have to have, we have to look at this at the same time when they haven't given it to us. If something new was put in like that, the zoning review committee added the proper definition. So that definitely is not in there. So the definition will be added.
Is it in the online system?
It's
Yeah.
somewhere, yeah.
And the online system, you have the whole thing.
It's not in
Yeah.
there.
It's not in
Yeah,
our-
I agree with the idea because they're definitely ugly and have,
I guess it goes back to what do you want to post? Not just a look.
Right.
Agreed.
I do agree with that appearance wise.
And
They're
this
ugly,
will
but I think
also
that we could do some
impact-
things to I want,
No, just painting it gray. It doesn't.
what about if I put siding on it?
You put it somewhere where it's not visible from the road.
I'm not gonna budge on this. I
No,
don't think
no,
it
the
should be
reason I'm
a red line.
asking is because the reason I have one, and they have purpose, they are airtight, they're way better than shed, they don't rot. They don't have mice in them like they do in sheds, so they do have a purpose. I'm not saying that they are appealing, but they do have purpose. So I think that,
So convince the code enforcement officer that yours is associated with agricultural use, or industrial use, or commercial use. And you've got 10 cars on there on every side, not a residential use or institutional use.
no, I disagree, if I wanna put my snowmobile in there, it's the best thing that the mice are not gonna get in there to eat the wires like they would in the regular shed.
All right, so then we do a vote.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm
budging.
because I'm okay with it, it's where it is.
Yeah, I agree, the location, I think we can dictate, I don't think we can dictate what kind of storage we're
Because
allowed.
of the nature of this community, it's not that.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
nature of the community is that.
If it should not be seen by the road, I think that,
It's
or
really
it should be match the paint of the house.
So
or
how about
match
if we
the
said
side.
it was in the rear yard
yeah.
set?
Guys, it said in G, if you read G, it has all that in there already.
I'm sorry?
In G, that's in there. So before you start saying things,
Shall meet the setback requirement, shall be in an approved designated location area on the same property as principal use, be included in the calculation of overall lot coverage. Shall be limited to 2, I like that
I think
idea.
we should go back to 1.
As a condition of placement may be required by the CEO, planning board, fenced and screened, okay, fine. Should not be stacked above the height of a single container device, fine. Should not be used for any advertising purposes, good, so then on the side where they have the names on them, you
Right,
can off or
right.
painted over, I agree with that. Should not occupy required access off-street parking, loading or landscape, fine. Should be used for storage only, and shall not be used for human habitation or commercial business, perfect. Shall not be used to store any hazardous material, fine. No permanent mechanical or plumbing shall be made to make a storage unit, that's good, so you can't wash your hands in it. Any container placed within a FEMA designated 100-foot plane shall adhere to the town of Rochester. I am fine with this.
The only thing that's missing from this, and it should not be anywhere in the parking lot.
I think it should be something with the word view shed.
Not be visible from the road.
that's
Yeah, that's a-
impossible.
That's a little
It's
more
like- That's
severe.
like, that's like,
That's stuff.
How are you gonna screen that and where?
Right, no, I get that.
Oh, you put a
In my
fence up.
opinion, that's where Maren and I will agree, I think, is if it was in the view shed and it painted the same color as the house or the other sheds on property, and it has the similar siding, I think that everybody would be happy with it, because nobody cares what it is, as long as it looks the same.
well, why
But if
don't,
it's out in the middle of the open,
so
it's
why
white.
don't, can we add shall not be placed in the front yard or the front yard setback?
Yes,
Put
yeah,
it-
absolutely.
Put it side. make it
And I think we
side
should also
there.
put in there, should be in the least
Yeah.
exposed location on site, something like that, so at least.
That's
they're-
always one of the things that's
Somebody's gonna
impossible.
cut down trees.
So do you want to have it screened with appropriate
It already said that in here.
screening with fencing and things
It
like that?
already said
That's
that.
already in
It's
line.
already in there.
Let's just say it can't be in the front.
It
But I
may not
also
be
think
in
you
the front
should
yard or the front yard.
Cut it
setback.
from 2 down to 1.
Because you say you should, I'm coming out on an angle. You have it in the back, you buy a house, if you want to more house.
Sure.
And I'm coming at an angle.
And I think it should be the same side as that.
Do we want
I'm
to,
okay with that too.
I go to 1, and we can get you go down to 1,
Alright.
and then it's concession.
how do people feel about going down to
Well-
1 rather than 2?
So I like the idea of 1, but I also think that if I want to spend $5,000 to have it sided and painted, and it looks like a real shed, I should be able to have 5.
No,
No,
no.
that's why we're saying 1.
I'll be at the local law meeting, because I
If you're gonna buy 5, you should build a barn.
Yeah.
It's under 2,500 square feet.
guess my thing is that I don't think we're understanding the difference between a shed and one of these. These have a lot more purpose. That although they might not necessarily
Then
look,
you blow and
Residential.
foam and hermetically seal your barn so the nice one.
Why?
Get a cat.
I will say we take a vote, because I think the 2 is.
So what are we voting on?
Voting on whether it's 1 or 2. So I make a motion to reduce the quantity from 2 permitted cargo containers to 1.
I'll second it.
All in
I
favor?
agree.
Aye.
So
Opposed?
now voted
I
aye.
voted.
I just don't think that we should be able to limit the number of them, as long as they look good.
No, because they never look good.
We,
I disagree.
and you
Right.
know, Mark, so
Mine's
I-
painted green. you
I
don't even know
respect
have it.
your viewpoint on it. We voted the viewpoint that we're gonna send to the board,
that's fine.
but you certainly have the opportunity to speak to the board at their public meeting.
Moving on.
And say, I think the planning board is all wet. It should be.
And we all agreed on it, not the parking lot.
And also.
Okay, so we're
exactly.
in.
Agreed. It should
And
not
not
be allowed.
allowed in the front yard or the front yard setback.
It should be reduced to
And
feet at
another
one
number.
way. I mean, I know
Yeah.
they're different technically, but.
Because they're both in front of the house.
Huh?
Because they're both in front of the
And
house.
there's two different.
The front yard setback
Both
is that
sides.
little piece that you can't put anything in.
Right.
And so to remind people that you can't put some accessory dwelling structure.
Wait till we get
type
the
stuff
horses.
in that little
Front yard?
neighborhood. And then
Front
your front yard
and
is,
front yard setback.
your front yard will all things
Three
that
per
a front yard is. And the setback
That's
is the
good.
In the code.
part you're away from your, beyond.
Oops.
So
That's
hypothetically,
like
this
your-
law, you still have the 53 foot, is that?
And, yeah.
Chair?
Add another.
And another number
Yeah,
within
yeah,
this, yeah.
Okay, keep going. What do we got?
Do you care what number it is?
I do
or
not.
Chair,
I'll just add it to the end.
does this take the 53 footer out of the question?
Yes, and it should, yes.
How?
Oh. So
Shouldn't it be?
cargo containers, trailers, other, right? I think there's a rule about having trailers on.
In my opinion, there is, but in
different
my opinion, it should not be movable. Should not be on wheels.
Okay.
I think that's all.
So put one cargo container,
Well,
and it
that's,
additionally should not.
Or does it come into the law?
it comes into the definition.
Yeah,
You
okay.
can't write it. in.
Yep.
Okay, so
You
we're good.
define it.
We're good.
Okay.
You
We're good.
define it.
Moving on.
Got
We
it.
don't
Moving on.
define it in the.
Let's go.
in the
I'll
law.
go to H.
Go down to,
That's the fine.
H, we're all
And it's
good.
defined in the new example.
So we don't have, I don't.
All right, our footprint for highly erodible soils, good swimming pools. Nobody had anything there. You think it's 6 feet? Is that, so maximum of 4? Keep going down. We're all good with I, right? 7 and I?
Are we on the fences?
Yeah, now we're on the
Okay,
fences.
go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, there were a
so,
lot of comments on just that one area, so that's why they stacked up.
so I'll just tell you my view on fences in the front yard, 4 feet. I have a study that I can link that I can show you that was done in Cairo, where they did different sound deadening qualities and found that even at 5 meters, it didn't deaden sound. So that's 15 feet. So the difference between 4 and 6 is nothing. You have to be 15. And also you have to be something like 3 meters thick. That sound reflects. So even building even if you have a 6-foot fence, you're making it worse on yourself because it's bouncing back and forth, not better.
So in my,
That goes back to the, well, that goes back to where we were.
Wayward land.
It was 8 feet, there was cantilever at the top, and then helped with the downside.
Maren and I both made comments that we agree that 6 should be the minimum, and I was not
6
doing it.
should 4 should be the minimum.
4 should be the minimum. I'd say
You said 6
change
instead
back
of
to
9.
4
Right here,
in
it's
front.
6.
in the front yard. I'm on the front yard.
In the front yard,
6 is on the side. The side
Yep.
is 8.
Yep.
And I said back to 6 for the side.
I think that 6 in the front is realistic, and my reasoning is not for noise, it's for privacy.
okay, and my reasoning is 6 feet above there makes it tougher for the fire department to get access, right? In order to throw a hose over a 6-foot fence is much different than throwing it over a 4-foot fence and seeing the visibility for the
And the
fire.
same thing.
If you
with
ever
police.
drove down Lucas, if you're driving towards High Falls, somebody put a very high fence in front of their house. What's the first time they had up there? Beware children at play. You can't see kids coming out, you can't see animals coming out. Animals can't jump it. Deer can jump a 8-foot fence or 12-foot fence.
I was doing it just for privacy, but I'm
Right.
okay with that.
But from a safety perspective, the animals can't clear a 6-foot fence. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna reroute their path to a different area around the fence where they've been crossing the street here for years and it's safe.
So you can
Now
take
they're
my,
going somewhere else.
take
It
mine
might be a
out.
little harder.
All
It
right.
might be a little easier.
Yep,
to-
4 wins,
4 in the front, 6 in the side.
6 on the side.
Okay,
Just don't change it because it was.
thank you. I think I made.
No, that's good. I
Actually,
just-
that's,
That was
that,
really good. point.
Makes
I
great
would,
point.
I was like, that's another one that you should write that up and put it in the
I'm
notes.
going to the meeting to present that
To
to
say
them with
that.
visual.
This is
Good.
super-
So essentially with all of these comments that I wrote,
Right.
should I just take them all out
Yeah,
and make
just-
one comment
Exactly. I would agree.
to revert back to the original
Yeah.
or?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
so let's move along. We got fences and walls.
I don't think there's anything else.
And then it's not like you can't build a 3-foot berm and then put a 2-foot fence on.
Well, that should be defined as ground,
Right,
what do they call that?
Nat-
Grade
right.
to
And
top
they
of.
do have that, they have that. Because that came up a couple times. We had to ask
Yeah,
Jerry.
exactly. So that was just that, we all wanted.
All right, good. Yeah, now we're on to the new ones.
10-foot farm and then another.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay, what are we starting with? O, kennels?
Yep.
Kennel.
Okay. What do we got there?
You said the
Fence-
fence height between two
Yeah.
match.
Agreed.
Exactly, so that has to.
If you want to move it to 5 acres, 3 for.
Yeah, the fence height requirement should match whatever.
Yeah,
the-
exactly.
Yeah, that's
the
what
lot
I
is.
commented.
Yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
Change the normal parcel of 3 acres, normal parcel of 5 acres shall be required.
I think that's reasonable.
I do too.
I do
like that.
too,
Yep.
exactly, 3 acres, by the time you get
No,
the kennel and the
fences.
house and the whatever in there, that's a lot of.
Number 1 is a 5 acre. Should we just say R5?
Minimum distance from 100 to 250. I agree that it has.
Hang on, Mr. Chair. How about number 1? Should we just change that to R5 zoning?
No, because you've got, then you have A10, and you've got,
A minimum parcel of R5.
no, because you could have AR3
Right.
and have 7,000 acres in AR3, you're zoned AR3, but you could have enormous
Okay, so how about a minimum parcel
5 acres.
of 5?
Minimum lot size, right?
That's-
Minimum lot size, is not the same thing, a lot size and a parcel is the same thing on a lot, but.
And that's true because in R5, you could be 1 acre lot that was just undersized before the change. So that's very good. Okay.
Lot size, yeah.
A minimum parcel of, or
Parcel,
lot
okay,
size,
that's fine.
would be the one
All
of 5
right,
acres.
it said parcel before.
That's
So you could be R1 zoning,
You
and
got
you,
5
but
acres.
you gotta have 5 acres.
Good, good
Yeah,
idea.
so that's-
We just,
Something trouble here about the fence, we said 6 for the side?
That's what it is right now, yeah.
currently, it's-
We just say keep it the way it is. Yep, right now it's 6 on the side, 4 in front.
I know,
The side was gonna be changed to be 8.
deer fencing, but it's not, it's the wire mesh.
Yeah.
They all have to now be 7 or 8 feet because the deer is low.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Does,
these-
do our fences,
like for plants and for
do our
well, for
fences,
people that are into planting.
horticulture,
do our fences stipulate
whether it's see-through or not.
see-through or not? Exactly.
Good privacy
I
fence
mean,
or a,
basically,
Are we talking about stockade fences? or-
I don't know, that's a very
Good
good.
question.
You know, is it stockade versus wire mesh? But some of the
So-
wire mesh, you can't.
The zoning does that. You can't use like the cyclone fencing is prohibited, whatever.
how about we change it to a privacy fence? Meaning, can't see through.
Right, because our fence definition is an accessory structure or enclosure composed of any substance that will prevent an adequate blockade around a field, yard, or other such expansive land.
That's-
Blockade, Mike.
That would be privacy, that would be wire mesh, that would be
Everything.
everything.
That's everything.
I think the word.
Our
privacy-
definition is just everything.
It's everything.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, but I can see your point about the deer fence.
I mean, it is even the farm, some of the farmers, like some of the organic.
It's 8 in a side yard setback currently once.
Sorry,
Is they-
It is 8. Yeah,
that might have been one of the reasons why. They
Oh, okay.
generally can't get over 8. They get over 6.
so I think you should change the 6 back to 8.
Yeah, keep it at 8 for.
4 in the front, 8 everywhere.
Which is what it is right now.
Right.
And it should stay as that, right? Okay.
Keep it at 8. Don't
It
forget.
just occurred, yeah.
No, that's a good catch because it is.
Because that's what I have on my side yard.
Yeah, I mean, I'd
I
love to
agree
put the,
with
qual,
all
I'd
that.
love to put the added qualification in. It
That's-
could be 8 for if it's see-through.
There is a thing for ag.
Right,
The use of agricultural fences as defined here shall be exempt from any
because this, see this, you could,
But the deer are.
it says, no, read the whole thing. An accessory structure enclosure has the ability to allow visibility through the enclosure to the opposite side is constructed. with specific
He was on
intent.
board.
And the farm animals within or wildlife out of the
What
field.
do you would read?
All right.
Our current, no, the stuff we currently have, this is our current definition.
All right, let's move on
Fence
to,
agriculture,
let's move on to the next
So
one.
you can already, so we could do 6.
We're in agreement on the fence.
We could do,
Let's-
actually, no, because fence agricultural is what he's talking about, and that's not covered under that law.
So
If you would
is
use the 500
agricultural fence
what about-
allowed in a non-agricultural zone?
What about horticultural? What if somebody has a,
Well, read it in the, it's right there in your.
There's no horticultural fence.
It
as
says,
a-
I don't know, guys, I'm just asking, this is why it took a year and a half to go through this whole process. The enclosure to the opposite side and is constructed with the specific intent of keeping farm animals within or wildlife out of a fenced yard or other expansive land. This shall not include chain link fences.
So can you only do
Chain,
that
that
in
was the word.
ag district?
It does not,
Agricultural fence.
it does not include chain
it does not include chain
link.
link.
Chain link would make chain link 10 feet.
You can't
No.
use chain link.
Can't
fence.
use chain link fence law.
Agricultural fences should, let's go back to the fence law, it should be not covered by our fence law, is what
Right.
this is
But
implying.
my question is an agricultural fence
Only allowed.
only allowed, is that, I have, let's say an agricultural fence is, the
Go back. to
five
the-
rail horse fence, right? That's agricultural. And you
It's
can
not
go-
by our definition.
Maybe
Well, I
it's
guess-
by location.
So we know what an agricultural fence is when we look at it, right? It's not a picket fence, it's not a stockade. Let's talk about the five rail horse fence, four rail horse fence, right? That you typically build that 5 feet high at least, right? Now, if you want to run, that's an agricultural fence, right? You want to run that in front of your house, it's 5 feet, not 4 feet. And you're saying, but this is agricultural fence, I can run it 5 feet, not 4 feet. Do you have to be in an agricultural, zoned
The
agricultural?
answer should
to
be
do that?
yes.
Or can I be zoned residential? and do that?
It
We need-
doesn't matter what you are zoned, you can be zoned anything as long as
Right.
that fence, the goal of the fence fits the definition, you always go back.
So
to the
so long as I'm going to keep animals in or out, right?
Yes,
Then I can have that fence. Right, and that
Yeah.
ties into, there's a setback for that we talked about as part of animal husbandry and all, right? And I think it's 50 feet off the road. or whatever.
Martin, just to close the loop, I think
Lines
the
and-
fence agricultural definition should say, in an ag district, comma, an accessory structure enclosure that has the ability to.
no, it doesn't work with ag district, once again, we can't say that, we have no agricultural districts under our law. Agricultural districts are only the county,
Correct.
and that means I can have a horse.
Yep.
I don't need to be in an agricultural district.
That's right.
And I want to put, obviously, a fence around my horse, 5 feet tall, keep him in so he doesn't go running away.
Right.
It doesn't work, Mark, because anybody can have a horse or a
Yeah,
goat or a
especially the
chicken
change of the right
or
to
a
farm.
pig or whatever. And we want to allow farming as a
So
right
we need to define
everywhere.
a
So
agricultural fence.
I think I did the example of Catskill Native Nursery up on the same side, up on the right-hand side. He has all these brick fences around it.
Yeah.
If somebody was to duplicate that, would that allow him to put chain link, it's chain link, what it is? It's not the.
It's not
I
chicken
just
wire.
wanted to know.
Chicken wire, isn't it?
Chains like this, 8 foot
Yeah.
tall. Would that allow?
I do not know. You have to go back to fences. I'm not.
He might be in an industrial zone.
He's not.
But no, it's not. I don't know, guys.
It's R3.
What is, I don't
They
know.
are. for you.
I don't know the answer here. Let's go back to fences. You can put a fence anywhere in every district.
Right.
No, we don't just have like
But
this
that,
kind of
and that's,
fence here and this kind of fence there. So. We just read the fence law. I can't. They didn't specify agricultural fence, which is not a fence, did it?
It's just that's bad. Fences walls.
With that zoning of
Chain link free.
it's all included.
And you wouldn't be able to.
Doesn't do that. We permitted them.
So.
It's
the-
R2 if we leave.
But it doesn't matter, guys. A fence law goes across all, unless we want to
Correct.
propose something.
No, I think
We
it's
have a
good.
different fence law for every one of our zoning
Yeah,
districts.
that's,
No,
so we're gonna leave it at 8 feet on the side.
The other thing you could say, it can be 8 feet on the side if it is an agricultural fence. And then add into agricultural fence in the definition, agricultural fences cannot be stockade,
I-
blah, blah, blah,
I
blah,
think,
blah,
I
blah.
think it's good leaving it the way it is right now. I think it provides that sort of airy feeling that the town wants without having, ended up in driving down a tunnel with fences on both sides of the road and all that.
But this,
And I think
you can do that still. The way we have, you can have an 8-foot stockade fence on the side, on the
Right.
back, on that, and then you drop the 4 foot in front.
That's right. And I think that that's reasonable.
As long as 4 foot in the front, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem. You,
And if you need to keep your animals in, you can go higher with an agricultural fence.
No, you can't. Anybody can go 8 feet. The way we are doing
In the
this,
front, you can go higher than
Right.
4 with an
Right.
agricultural fence too.
if an agricultural fence, like Rick said, it shouldn't be a privacy fence. It should be exposed.
That's right. See through.
See-through, right.
but it doesn't say anything in our code right now to say that. Where do we say, so you can just,
Okay, so we need to define agriculture.
I think we need to define agricultural fence to say that in the front, Lauren, make sure I'm clear, in the front, it's
Bring up
I thought we
something,
had something that is see through someone as well, and I thought chain link is prohibited as well.
Why would chain link be prohibited? Because that's certainly see-through, as long as you don't have those slats through it.
I think
It's the same thing as agricultural, basically. Or can be.
is prohibited.
Yeah, that's so good.
Something with this. That's changed.
Yeah, you got, I don't I'm not, I don't get why that's.
Why that?
That's.
Why no chain?
Why is that accepted?
I don't know.
I mean, if you go out and get that plastic 8-foot deer fencing, it
Chicken
looks
wire.
almost exactly, it's not chicken wire. It's got holes this big in it.
Yeah,
And
that's not
it
different.
has- and it's all plastic. You
Oh,
go over,
plastic
It
one.
looks just like chain link.
Right.
Well, zipper.
well, I would,
I think we need to better
I
define
would
the fences.
specify much more granularly what kind of fencing.
I think we should go back to the fence law.
Okay,
That's my personal opinion.
how are we doing on time here? Can we hold this one out and see if we can knock a few of the others out?
Fine with that.
Okay,
Let's
so
get through them
Yeah.
and come back
Put that
down.
on.
let's hold on to this one.
Right, so finish local law.
Yeah, let's,
And
let's go
I don't
to,
think
let's see how we're doing on kennels.
are you guys,
So kennels, we
Kennels, that's it. That's the
changed
last.
3 to 5, you wanted to move the distance from 100 to 250. I don't see that as.
Oh, Rick, you said change the minimum distance from 100 to 250.
Yeah.
That's fine in 5 acre, not in 3. So, okay, that's good.
But we now we've made. it-
Right, and I said 250, we can do 200.
Yeah, you said 150.
I said 150.
You said
You said
200. It's
Do 200.
middle of the road.
you
So,
wanna do 200?
Yeah, that's it.
all right,
I'm gonna
I just
delete
put it
that
as
one.
what
and then
does
I'm
shall
gonna-
be provided not to exceed?
Oh, yeah.
Where's that?
And this
Five.
to say 200.
A noise barrier. Rick John, what does shall be provided if this is not?
Change the minimum distance. No, leave, just take out 100. Good, you good?
Yep.
I had a problem with that also, Rick. I just changed the wording entirely. I know. I did it.
Where's that come, what?
Well, number
is that?
4, always right where it says Rick's, what does.
I say what shall be, the quote in the law shall be provided, if this is not to exceed 15 feet.
Oh, Lauren, yours is good.
Well, I just changed the wording because I was just confused with what
Oh,
was underneath.
sorry.
I said, take number 4 out entirely. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. And I said, replace it with kennel outdoor runs shall be fully fenced at a height of no less than 6 feet. Outdoor runs shall further be adequately buffered as determined by the planning board as specified in 140-50 landscaping and 140-20 general commercial and residential.
So I can remove
That's great.
bricks and is everybody okay with me adding Karen's exact wording? Okay.
Because I was like, I don't know what the heck.
So you're gonna
I'm adding yours too?
Yeah, the
I'm
sound
adding
stuff.
both? Are they, I thought they, okay.
Add the section.
I had the other question.
Yeah, add the, keep the sound stuff.
Keep the sound.
Sounds
From that
shall be
up,
provided.
from there up. There you go, okay,
Okay.
next,
They have to be in compliance anyway, but just what we want.
all right, keep going.
Noise
Noise
barrier
barrier.
must also conform to yard setback requirements. That's what Bruce said.
Right, so, or the fencing requirements.
Yeah,
basically.
fencing.
But I think it's covered where we went with the
That's, well,
150.
that's given. That's also
Yeah.
given you all.
Okay, so take it out, delete it.
Okay.
I also think, I don't like the hours. Animals shall be restricted from using the kennel areas not only closed or door from 8 AM to 8 PM.
Sun up to sundown.
I think that you should, yeah, dusk to dawn kind of thing, because this is my thinking on it. I think actually an hour before dusk. Because if the animal gets away, you're gonna be chasing this animal in the dark to try and round it up. So that's where I'm going. Tell me you haven't had to chase a horse in the dark, because I have.
No, actually, well, yeah.
Yeah, it happens, exactly.
I think is this referring to like personal kennels, like.
No, this is.
No, these are
or
commercial.
If somebody wants to,
commercial.
This is
I thought.
commercial.
we do have.
Right,
We have some that.
Yeah.
so
Okay.
then the last thing was,
So it
yeah,
might take-
24/7 was the other.
Yeah.
You got that.
I mean, you gotta have someone there. What if it's dog carnage?
So
And
the
that was,
hours,
yeah, my
am I
comment.
changing anything to the hours?
Yes, I think you should be 1 hour prior to sundown.
Prior to sundown.
I'm
An hour prior,
Yeah,
so
I
leave that
agree.
in.
What Bruce said is perfect.
Okay, moving on to the next local.
And
24/7, I
agree.
agree.
Uh,
24/7 is awesome. I mean, can you imagine the mess if something drastic happens?
All right,
So
good.
on to P, transfer of density rights.
I didn't get this to go. So let's move on to one after P. 'Cause I'm gonna- Yeah,
Oh, wait, there's only one note.
there's only
Is it
one
just
note?
more-
Yeah, there's only one
note?
comment.
We've never used it, or we just get rid of it.
That is almost what,
This is covered in
Yeah,
E
your
five.
question is covered with covered in five.
Oh, okay.
mine is? Okay, then good,
Then we're done here.
we're done.
Delete
All
that
right,
and
I-
have nothing to comment
They
about that
use-
one?
They use this a lot with, when we want to do the solar. stuff.
Yeah.
That's,
All
how-
right,
that's one of the
So I
primary.
should transfer, be able to transfer my density rights. I have a 10-acre piece in R2, right? So if somebody wants to buy my density rights, they can put 5 houses somewhere else.
Yep,
And
and
pay me.
circumvent the, whatever the zoning density is.
Right.
that they are.
But they can exceed my.
That's
5.
ridiculous. That should be out of there.
Right, I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna sell. I'm
In
gonna
theory, I would say we should,
Not allow it.
Somebody's staying up too late at night, had too much coffee.
so,
This would be cool, so I can put it in.
Yeah, take it.
so here's where,
Oh, wow.
here's the key thing, guys, if you look at what the committee did. If you go down ascending property,
What are we on? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, we're still on the transfer of density. And if you go down to very quickly to D4, to help make sense of this, because we all agree it's confusing. Ascending property, you want to give your rights to somebody.
Right,
Can be in the AB3, AR3,
right.
AR10, PL10, NR, or R5 district. And you have to have at least 10 acres.
Right. Why
But
can't it be in R2?
because you don't have enough, you don't have enough. to
I have
send
10
anyway.
acres.
And you know what I'm saying?
You're in
Yeah.
R2 and have 10 acre?
I'm in R2 and I have 25 acres. Wow.
Because they wanted to restrict, it.
Restrict the.
I think that you're gonna have a problem with this in court.
It's been sitting there, it's been sitting there as
I
it
know,
is.
nobody's challenged,
ever
but I
used
think.
I
you'll have
think
a
we should-
problem.
Well, we also think, I don't think you're right, because you do restrict it all the time, and this is really used in places that are dense. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's, and they restrict it all the time in New York City, if you have transfer density rights in this part of the city, not, well, I think it will stand up fine in
What's
court.
the advantage to keeping it compared to the advantage to just getting rid of it?
Oh, we would all like to just get rid of it entirely.
Yeah.
because
So
it's
let's
not
take
really
Toronto.
a-
Well, hang on a second.
But-
So let's do it.
Let's do it.
Then let's just say we get rid of it
We
entirely.
don't see,
Yeah.
we don't see.
entire-
We don't see the use.
entire
right.
local
The
law.
entire.
It's been
local-
stagnant for how many
I'm
years?
good with
When was the last time somebody tried?
I'm actually better with that.
I agree.
Okay.
Now's our chance.
Because the
Good.
only thing.
Right.
Outside of that is,
Can you give me an example of when somebody would do this?
Yeah.
yes, I can tell you
Sure.
all the time when they do it in New York
No,
City.
tell me, like, what do they
Okay,
do?
I can tell you a perfect example.
I own something,
Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden,
when they transfer the ownership from A
Can
to
we,
B,
can we cover that?
Yeah.
The example, it's not,
we want to take it out.
no,
we want to drop it.
no.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we want to get
Hold
rid
on.
of it.
Basically, you're saying to take the view of Madison Square.
Come on, let's move on to the next one.
I'm ready.
Let's go.
Landscaping.
No, we're
That's
going to
good.
view.
I
He was
think
in
even do I really need like protein or something?
All right.
Maybe the alphabet.
Lot development standard, the first one should.
Yes.
Instead of shall.
So, Okay, that's easy, should. Mine is, what was mine? Do we want to be beholden to,
That's why you change it to should. Should just means you use it, shall means you have to use it.
right, then we're good, you can take
Take
mine
out
out.
first.
Quantify multiple, 2, 10, what is it?
I don't think you can do that. It's just called multiple permitted uses in all of the law. That's one for.
Okay, take it out.
That's right in the code.
that's
Yep.
right in the code, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know, but you should quantify a lot of that.
No, well, yeah.
How many accessory uses can you have? How many home occupations can you have? Plain English, on which one was that?
2.
Well, let me do that because I could take the entire thing.
Okay, then take it out, but
It is really torturous and this is to the, it sounds torturous like that because it's like the American way, the lawyer's way of writing it, you know?
all right, what's the next one that I
Is 3.
disagreed with? I disagree with this. Economics will drive green initiatives. No need to encourage it for higher density, which is counter to reducing the carbon.
Well, I disagree with that because that's why we have taxation in the nation because we drive their incentives and that's why we have tax rebates for solar because that drives.
Right.
So market conditions do not drive. I wish we'd be Shumpterian and we could have perfect market conditions and market conditions would let us rationally all do things, but America doesn't work with it. I mean, I'm neutral on,
I don't feel that strongly about it. It's more a
I'm-
question.
yeah.
So you can go.
Who's taking it out, the density funds?
now we're reading it in. I don't think we're gonna get much people. using
We
it.
need to leave the next one.
Yeah, that one.
Lot development parcels. Sorry, what was the lots in the,
There's all ag, lots, development.
what was the one above that there?
Oh, there was just the repeated lots in the.
Oh, okay, yeah. So where's the one that I?
What do we have?
You said it twice, exactly. They were just that.
Yeah,
Yours
fine.
is referring to 5.
I disagree with all ag lots in village.
Yeah, why are they being exempted?
Because an ag lot, you can clear the whole lot.
Right,
If it's agricultural, you're gonna have a farm of 50 cows, you can bear the whole lot.
right.
That's the reason. That's not, I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm saying that's the reason.
I don't think, I mean, I agree with you philosophically, but the law, because we're remote farming, you gotta say you can do whatever you want. Sadly. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're right.
Delete it.
You want cows.
Delete it?
Can I just ask a clarity? So I have a lot that's 1 acre, 40,000 square feet. I can only clear 7,500 square feet of it. Otherwise, I need a site plan approval. And the site plan approval is approving what? That I want to have a bare lot?
Essentially. That I want to clear more than 7,500 square.
Clearing a certain amount of air.
But can we turn down that?
Does that work in the building world?
Maybe under the landscape standards.
I think we should question that because
Oh.
hypothetically, if I want to have.
You'll need a zoning
Help me out
variance.
here. If I'm an R1,
But this is a zoning variance that you'll need to get, it, not a plan.
but we can't turn down a site plan. What are they gonna
You
ask?
would have to go through, you have to pass through the zoning part.
Right.
before
So
you
zoning
adopt
would
it.
say, now, I see
No,
your
it's
site
just-
plan,
Site plan approval, go to the planning,
Just goes to planning board.
go to the planning board and you say.
but they need a variance to clear more because they're in violation, wouldn't they?
No. If I want to clear more, all I need is a planning board site plan approval. And what are you gonna say in a site plan approval, Lauren? What would,
You got a really good point. It's like kind of approval, we can't say
You can't say no.
no, we can.
what we can do, say, put 3 trees up and make sure your driveway is over here?
Exactly.
I don't know if anybody can really enforce that.
So how would you reword it? So
I think I just get rid of it. I just don't know how it's enforceable, I guess. I'm concerned. If I have a building lot, regardless of what zoning district it's in, I can clear the whole lot, and it's the same thing as having a party. I don't wanna have
Yeah,
a.
some
Well, you
rules-
can, I do say that, but no, you can, you're not, this would limit to some degree, if somebody, I mean, obviously this is an extreme, somebody comes with 8,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet or whatever, yeah, go do whatever you want, but let's just say you have a big lot and you want to, because, and all of these in all of our lot design and our subdivision design and that thing referencing back to that, would be saying, okay, well, wait a minute, you really need to like clear cut the entire thing.
Then it should be by zoning district, not based on square footage. Because if I have an R5 lot, 5-acre lot, I shouldn't be able to clear cut it. But if I have an R1 lot, I should be able to clear cut it, because what if I want a lawn? 7,500 square feet is not big enough to put a house, a septic, a well, a driveway, and let's just call it 2 outcrops, rock outcrops, just for aesthetics.
Yeah, you're totally.
It's not enough. So I think we should change that to by zoning district, not by square foot size. If I'm an R5, no, you need a site plan approval, you're not clearing the whole lot, I agree with that. But if you're in R1 and I wanna live on Queens Highway,
Exactly.
well, I'm gonna clear the whole lot, I wanna mow a lawn in the front, need a place for my well, by the time the well truck gets there and the septic guy gets there, he's gonna mow it all down anyway. I'm not saying I agree with him, I'm just saying that that's reality, and I don't think that Jerry, the CEO, is gonna have much opposition, because he's gonna say, the well's gotta be over here and the septic's gotta be over here. It's an R1 lot, it's only so big, you have no choice. So I think that maybe, how about AR3?
How
and
about as
larger
a percentage of the,
It does a percentage of the,
overall square
so,
footage?
right, because I think, so in my dealings with the board, they seem, and again, this is me telling for them though, right? They always seem reluctant to use any graduated method to deliver.
yeah, they don't like that.
I'm okay with the percentage,
You know, like,
but we need to think about it.
If you go back 10 feet, it's 50%. If you go back 20 feet, it's 75 feet, 75%. If you go back 100 feet, it's 100%. You know, that kind of, any graduation, they seem very reluctant about. I don't know why, but so if you use a percentage instead,
I'm
it's
okay
a
with
little
that idea.
easier to measure.
Because in R5, you would have 200,000 square feet
Right.
on a 5-acre lot, around that area,
Right.
right? 40,000.
So start with the minimum for the 1 acre,
Okay, so,
Right.
so what R1 zoning would be 40,000 square feet.
right?
So I think that you should be able to clear up to 40,000 square feet in an R1 zone.
So say roughly, I don't know that I'd go with all of it, but 75% of the lot up to 30,000 square feet.
Fine, and we might need to come back to this, but I think that we have a lot constraint problem.
Right.
Because our code is constrained against this. We are saying in our code, your well has to be 100 feet from your septic. On a 1-acre lot, that is next to impossible. Because on an R1 zone, some of those lots are 100 by 200.
So what if it's, something like 30,000 square feet or 10% of the lot size, whichever's less?
I think I'd take it out, I think it's just too much of a headache.
I just don't know how you would enforce it, because the engineer is
I
saying.
agree. I think it's tough to enforce.
I mean, and the reason I say that is I'm thinking about a 1-acre lot on Queens Highway. That's 200 by 200.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I don't know how the hell you do it.
No, I think I just taking it out entirely, because,
But I think in an R5 zone, you shouldn't be able to clear cut. I'm sure.
Alright, so
but I
make the
think that's covered in,
Have that under, right,
I don't know, it's not gonna be covered at all, only the subdivided. The subdivided will be
right,
covered, then we have all kinds of
But if you
design
just-
shit.
right.
But
I think that we need to change this via a zoning district, not the square footage size. And I think that, how about this, Mark? Here's a negotiation. A 1-acre lot is 40,000 square feet. How about you cannot clear more than 40,000 square feet, regardless of what zone you're in? Now, if you're in an R5 district, you can only clear an acre. If you're in a PL10, you can only clear an acre. If you're in R2, you can only clear an acre. But if you're in R1, you can clear cut the whole thing, because you're gonna have to.
Is this number 5?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that.
So what am I doing here?
I'm gonna have to.
Just change 7,500 to
Because obviously, yeah, you need.
to 40 to
Well, I mean,
1
if you're
acre
gonna-
or
if
less.
you're gonna
One acre or less.
Still plant it,
Right.
you need to clear.
That works.
Right.
Say that, Rick?
That works better.
Say that, Patrick?
Ag zones
I
have
was
to be
saying
exempt.
you're gonna have. yeah,
Oh, absolutely, that's totally different.
And that's in all
Nicole,
agricultural.
that's,
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's all, because then in the spring where you end up having.
All right.
the whole thing go on, whatever.
I
And
can't
then
even
anywhere
imagine if
else
I go to
you end up-
Jerry and say, hey, I can't meet.
All right,
the
we got it.
Yeah, that's
Let's
good.
move on to the next one. Sorry, Mark.
There's just another meeting coming in at seven,
Yeah.
so.
Oh,
And
there we
it's
go. Moving on.
6:30.
Moving on, wellhead protection area.
Okay, the slopes, I think everybody's fine on.
Right. 7,
Hydrological, so they are fine.
Yeah, and in 7, I said add in the wellhead protection area. And then I had to go look at the map that I gave, which shows.
I'm good with that.
So it's 80 overlay districts
we're
and wellhead protection.
close it out.
I think
You're
I'm
gonna have to open up
a lot
that,
a lot of us may have had questions.
Oh,
about-
sorry.
open that.
Are we up to 8?
Not yet.
Oh, sorry.
But this
I
is,
like all of that.
this is great. This is like, we're asking you to use woods roads. We don't want you to take down, stone walls. I think this is.
Yep, I like that.
Everybody wants to
All right,
add my
yep, 8.
comment?
Lauren, are you okay with adding your comment?
Yeah,
What are the things with non-binding?
yeah, I said the same thing, non-binding.
Why get rid of non-binding?
Yeah,
The
well,
following-
that's.
The following
people that all
guidelines.
say get rid of non-binding.
The following guidelines.
We did so many-
Follow the following guidelines.
Right.
Use the following guidelines.
So I'm
These are all
removing non-binding.
Yes.
Okay,
The words.
I'll just leave that there.
I don't know about anybody else.
You're not taking the comment,
You need to be at this public
taking the wording.
Yes,
hearing. You need to be at this
yep.
public hearing.
Add additional representation.
I mean, the how.
Yeah, you all said remove.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would put that in.
With what?
You know what I'm gonna do?
Yeah.
I'm gonna remove yours just because it's bigger.
Yeah.
Just so we can.
But that's another one, Nicole, that you should go back and exit out.
Yeah.
of the document.
Oh, well, yeah, these are like basically notes for me.
And
now.
vegetation clearing of invasive species, brush and small trees, cliffs of the caliber under XXX, can you show more?
This was, I was trying to like address what,
Yeah.
of what Zach said, because
Yeah.
you have like. So in our subdivision, this is like trying to take the subdivision code and give what to the both, in both places, and the subdivision says, no clearing zones, well, in general, they don't want like people, like, going back to what you said, you've got PL 10 or whatever, you don't want someone to be just like through a whole. But Zach is totally right, you have a lot of front yards, and you can bunch of crap. you know,
Right.
But I don't really know how to work it.
That's what I tried to word in my comment here, you know, if
Yeah.
the clearing should be appropriate if you're increasing the fragmentation of the property.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, the same thing, I don't know the wording here, but the goal of the lease
Right,
stuff,
so we can
instead of
say.
cutting everything down,
People wear
putting it in stockade fence.
Right.
personal taste to the, individual
So-
thing.
We're not charged with giving them the wording, we're only charged with giving them the comment.
Yep.
So, yeah, so I think the comment is appropriate.
Okay.
Let's move
Yeah,
on. to the
moving
next
on.
one.
So
Yep, leave it.
they're both saying the
Yep.
same thing, okay.
What number are we on now? Why the reduction, go back to 50?
Because this is stuff that I didn't answer you, because in some of the new stuff, you're in the hamlet. And we want densification, and then you're R1, you want densification. So you want, the whole goal was to try and drive your everything in closer, so that you have lesser bed, and you can fit more houses and more stuff
Okay,
in
delete
there.
the comment. I just needed the, so I asked why.
Right, exactly, yep, that's why we're going in R1 and A.
Yeah, that's,
No, just for notes, the H district is most of your extremely undersized lots. H districts are normally very small, the acre size.
That's what we're trying to make it, it's got less constraints.
Correct, I'm just saying that
it's all here.
historically, our historic district has very small lot size.
Exactly, and it should be, the hamlet should be
Agreed.
able to give you sugar out the window.
I agree, we should cut the flag lines. I'm good
Okay.
with this.
Are we on the flag lot?
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to think about our density and our our flag lot constraints right now, which I feel are very good. I don't think that eliminating a flag lot is realistic. We have some lots that have to be a flag lot because there's no other place for them. I don't think that taking them out completely is an option, but I think taking them out in certain districts is a good idea. And I think that flagging a flag is not something that should be in.
I thought that is prevented already.
Flagging a
Already
flag
put
is
that.
not allowed. Can't flag a flag. We had a couple people in the
Right.
'80s that flagged the flag,
Right.
the flag, and they got.
They got flagged.
But I think that no flag lots in an AR3 district or higher should be allowed.
I mean, that's the easiest way to do this.
But,
I don't know, we'll go for it, but.
right, because in an R1 and an R2 district, you can't put the lot in there without a flag. You'll never get the requirement of the road frontage. Something will have to be. approved.
Yeah, but none of this stopped the flag. We can only do a flag lot. So the way the law is here. you can do
I guess
flag
what I'm getting, they were trying to constrain the length of the pole of the flag and, the road, how much road frontage that you need to have. All I'm saying is, my only note is, and it might not something we put in writing, is we need to have flag lots. They have a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I totally agree, but our comment.
I don't see how you're gonna get a.
It's sort of twofold here, because you could say, all right, we just think it's a lot cleaner if you just say no flag lots are allowed in AR3, R5.
PL, maybe.
PL 10.
That's the easy one.
Whatever.
So
I guess
is that
if-
consistent with what your view is on it? To do it that way, or is your view different than that?
My view is that we should have no restriction on flag lot. But to have negotiations, I think that if we're not going to allow flag lots, they shouldn't be in the larger parcel.
But this all allows flag lots, it's completely restricted. The problem you have again is you can be R2 zoning and have 90 acres. So then you still need a restriction on flag lots.
And I think our current restrictions are good enough. You know, a 50-foot right of way,
Yeah.
50-foot frontage.
If we were to change it, what's the reason to change it? Restricted?
I don't know.
Because
I think they're pretty restrictive right now.
Right.
Mike,
You can't
Based on-
reflag a flag lot.
Right, I
Right.
think that's.
but based on the
That's
town
easy.
board's
Right.
conversation, when I was listening to them,
Yeah.
they were saying that they don't want the strip or the flag pole to exceed 500 feet.
Oh, that's the fire.
Who cares? That's a fire.
Well, hang on a second. If it needs to be 1,000,
Right.
go with our code where it says you have to have X amount of pull-offs and they have to be the size.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But they're saying that's not
The
allowed.
reason that the town board thought about that is because if you look at the comprehensive plan, we say we want to preserve our open spaces. And a lot of this, and we want to preserve our watershed, we don't want to build in steep slopes, all this stuff in the comprehensive plan. It was an easy way to go through it for the town board, if you just, then it keeps all your development closer, no matter what. You can put as many pull-ups as you want, let's call it state to state.
Sure.
The fire department is never getting there, not safe the house, if you're farther than 5. So this keeps your development close to the road. If you can't go farther than 500 feet,
Okay. And it preserves open space.
and it preserves all the open space and the border.
But so go down.
A good example of that is the one that we might be approving and have 1,800-foot
Exactly.
road with 3 poles. That house in the back goes on fire.
It's
not
done.
like-
It's bad.
Don't even
Go
bother
go
going.
down slightly
So-
to number 7.
So I would agree, if that's the motivation behind it, I like that.
But hang on just a second, because if you look at number 7, it says, no flag lots will be allowed in PL 10.
Right.
So, I think that we should, that should
Add
fluctuate.
more.
Yeah.
So I could agree with that also. You could keep the rest, because some of the stuff isn't anything like, the basic formation of flag must be to circumvent the need for construction of a, this is all just.
But I
Yeah.
agree we should get rid of the 500-foot maximum. Because if you don't
Oh, I don't
have,
agree with that.
hang on a second, let's take a step back. If you don't have a flag lot in AR3 or less, you'll never get to 500.
That's only your.
No.
I don't know, that's, I don't.
It's because it depends, you keep thinking, like you're already divided into 3 acres,
Sure.
right?
Right.
I could have 100 acres, it's
Right.
AR3,
Yeah.
and the only way to do it is to go way back
Right.
and do my whatever. And then I can have a couple.
So then you have the amount of pull-offs that you need, and you're okay.
No,
No, and we don't want that stuff developed way
Right.
back because that goes against the comprehensive plan, what people are
Right.
open spaces. So yes, it
What if
does,
it's not open? What if it's wooded?
it doesn't matter.
that is open space. Open is not, and
Perfect
open is not
example.
a field.
Is the
Needs
one on
without
Spring
development.
Spring Hill.
He's
The
undeveloped.
one on Spring Hill.
Yes.
He had two flag lots.
Yep.
Going all the way into the back.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet. They're getting.
Yeah, it was like 650 feet.
And we eventually told them, no, bring it, we wanted it closer to the road, we didn't want disturbance in the back, these high slopes. It was.
I mean, if it doesn't meet the slope law, but I'm saying like for your property, you're in an R, you're an R2.
Right.
I think that in the event that was subdivided land, you would never be able to get a lot in there without a line.
We're still gonna have a flag, we
Well,
only do.
I don't want to
maybe
talk
one
about my
is-
specific situation,
Yeah, but
whether I agree or
Yeah.
disagree with you.
No, I'm just saying.
But
Well,
I
I'd say
I
I-
understand what, I'm sorry. Matt. I understand why the 500 limit, because what you're doing is then saying any of the land that's essentially 500 feet past the main road is going to remain undeveloped, right? Is going to remain open space. That's the impact of that, right? So that's really what, do we want to preserve land that's more than 500 feet from the main road as open space?
I mean, in my
It
opinion,
doesn't matter what zone it's in, it's more than 500 feet from the main road.
what if I want my house 1,500 feet off the road?
That's fine, it's your house. Your house is 50 feet. One lot. But you can't start doing new lots.
What if it was a flat lot? What if there was a lot up front and I wanted to have my house in the back? I wanted to have a lot for my
You couldn't do
family.
it.
You couldn't do it.
Because 500 feet would be the limit,
I disagree.
and that's fine. That's why there's
And the
subdivisions.
reason why I say that is because there are, I think it needs to be by zoning district, not by lot size. for instance. Because in the larger lots, you will win the battle with the open space. That all makes sense. But in a smaller zoning district, there is huge benefits to affordable housing for flag lots, where these lots are, say, a 4-acre lot. I want to break it into 2 pieces because it's R2. I want to have the house up front, but I want to have a lot in the back for affordable housing. I think there's benefits to it, and I think we might be overlooking it. That's all. I think it needs to be by zoning district.
Well, I think this is one where we have a bit of a different opinion. We want to put forth a motion on this one, the decision that we
If
want
you
to.
own 20 acres in R5, that, it's not up for conversation. But I think that if you are in an R2 district in our low density zoning code that Rick read earlier, it has purpose.
Why don't we just put in that the zoning board doesn't have a consensus on this, that, you know, how many people feel it should be limited?
Well, then
to?
we don't need to change it at all. We'll just talk about a public hearing.
No, but I think they should know that we don't
don't
have,
agree?
that we don't agree
On flag lot.
on a land.
Yeah, you just write that in.
Right, so we'll write that in the comment and just, how
I'm
many,
only one vote, so
are you, Zach? I don't know, how you feel 500 feet is,
I just think it has purpose.
We'll just write a comment, exactly, we're in agreement.
yeah, I just want to know,
I mean, if I'm.
right, it doesn't matter how
far
many
from
on
the
one side.
zoning, then work the space on it.
Just okay.
I figured that.
Let's continue on with the next one.
We could not reach.
We don't reach a consensus. That's fair. All right. So now we're on, are we done with that? We,
I think so.
Oops,
Oh, wait,
okay.
multifamily, there's something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rick has something here for multifamily. The application fee for subdivision and use shall be paid. Rick says it should be removed and listed.
Agreed.
Okay, then that's it.
All right,
for
that's
that.
it. All right, last one is the overlay districts. I think that one's pretty straightforward too. And then we can come back to the accessory.
Land, well.
Oh, I thought we did
And
that.
we have
I'm
anything
sorry.
else to discuss?
Landscape and overlay. No, we just have a minute. Yeah, we do actually.
'Cause we-
So
we're
while
out of
we're,
time.
while we're getting crunch on time, 15 minutes, I would like to put forward a motion to hold a special planning board meeting on October 6th at 6:30 for the intention to enter into an executive session.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion on it? Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Six?
It's a
Thursday.
Thursday, 6:30.
Okay,
We need to approve the minutes.
motion carries. You want to vote on the minutes for September 12th? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minute.
All in favor?
Wait, we
We
need
need a
second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a second? Do we have any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
So we kind of knocked those out. So now we can go back to landscape
And
standards.
I have to go tomorrow.
I think we made really good progress here.
So do you want to start, or do you guys want to table the?
And what are we gonna do? Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll try and cover this in the meeting as well.
Do it in the
on
regular,
the
there's the comments of those.
There's only a couple.
There's not a
more.
couple. Yeah, an overlay.
Yeah, we gotta do that.
Yeah, let's jump to overlay, because I think, like I said, it's just a couple. Yeah. We can knock one more out, and then we'll only have landscape standards. And just.
Not on kennel.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Mark.
Continuing.
Overlay. So we still had stuff on kennels.
No, I was just asking for the.
I didn't have any questions on overlays.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, what did I want? Right, purpose of service using. Yeah, how come we're limiting that, and this is more, why are we limiting it to other and not including other high density areas in it? Don't know. And then, okay. Is there any reason?
I'd say with the, I have no idea, I don't remember.
Or are we
I
thinking
keep
that-
it back in R1, the problem again with happening again is, we have R2 that is. You have 20 acres of R2, and you can set them, you could
Go nuts.
go nuts, and you don't really want to do that. R2, the real problem here is R2, the big R2s should be converted to AR2s or
I
R5s,
agree.
et cetera,
I'm more than happy to sign up for it.
but that's gonna be even more difficult for the town board, and that's something that another, like you said, presenting to them or discussing. So I'd say you could put back in, R1.
Yeah.
But I would not put in R2, because we have to remove R2 back.
Okay, that's fine. I'm happy with half a loaf. And I see the little league is lining up in the football. field.
That's probably why they had all one in at the beginning.
Okay, come down.
Oops. Sorry.
Add the planning board can restrict or prohibit other uses, special uses and activities requiring site. plan.
No, we can't restrict. If it said can review, which would be special, it's like, I'm gonna review that.
I think we might be able to do that in other sections anyway. That we don't need it over there.
Yeah, but if you have, are we talking economic overlay or are we talking?
No, we're talking aquifer,
Office protection overview.
aquifer and
I think,
Yeah, but that's
floodplain.
basically, that would be what we would be
Doing
restricting
anyway.
it for.
Okay, you can take it out.
well, what I'd say is you need to look through more of all of our uses
Right.
Yeah,
and see if you want to add more than
To the restricted.
to
yeah.
the restricted list, and just spell them out.
And that's why I said, sort of at the end where it's that catch-all, and other duties as required in your job description, that,
And I think, we don't have the time to do it now, because we had the dates when we were reviewing it, as to what else should
Right.
be.
so we recommend expanding the number of uses that are enumerated in section.
Well, maybe we should set this aside and actually go through all the uses.
I think everybody should go
Yeah.
through and see. if they want
Okay,
to
all right.
add.
We'll put it away.
The clean way to do it is just.
All right. So I know we're short on time. We have a few more to go. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Yeah, I think this is great.